welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler, here with Johnny. Johnny, what's going on?
Not much. How are you doing, Tyler? Been a little while. I feel like I haven't talked to you in a bit.
Yeah, we're recording late, as in late, like the show is getting edited and coming out tomorrow. So that does come with an advantage. Usually there's like at least a week gap in between anything that happens and when the show is coming out. So we're just like always like way out of date. No one wants to hear about last week's news. Technically, this week's news, Nintendo had their E3 thing. What are we calling it? Nintendo Direct? That was E3, Nintendo right? Direct. I'm not really paying attention that much.
Yeah, it's basically their E3, and Limited Run did their thing as well.
What did you think of that, Johnny? Let's talk about modern games for this opening segment here.
Okay, I didn't really watch it. I just saw some of the highlights at the end, but they seemed like they announced a lot of franchises that are just Nintendo stuff. Like, hey, Metroid, cool, more Zelda. I am excited about that Zelda game in the same style as the Game Boy remake.
Yeah, that did look pretty cool.
It's
not for me. Like, if I saw that game and it didn't have the Zelda branding, I'd be like, all right, that seems like a cute game. I think it's cool that they're taking Zelda in a completely new gameplay direction, doing something completely new, similar to something like a Captain Toad or something, because, oh my God, as much as I love, like, Mario, Zelda, Metroid games, like, goddamn do we have a lot to choose from. Like, I really like when they come out with just something new and it just isn't the formula over again.
Yeah, we got some of that.
Speaking of that, Johnny, I am looking forward. There's one game in my entire life right now that I'm looking forward to, and it's Psycho Patrol R. It's the sequel to Cruelty Squad. But besides that, there's another game that I've wanted for, 17 years. Metroid Prime 4. And
yes,
so
it's finally happening.
So, like, what, 10 years ago, we got, like, a logo? 7 years ago? I don't remember how long that was.
A long time ago.
They were just like, hey, Metroid Prime 4.
We've been speculating since the Wii U.
And then they said, like, oh, hey, by the way, guys, that game sucked. We canceled it so we can, like, really make Metroid Prime 4. Because you guys deserve this game so much. We don't want to tarnish our reputation with whatever garbage they were about to give you. We're going to give you the next-gen Metroid Prime experience.
They released Other M with, like, no compunctions.
Well, yeah. That trailer, it looks literally like it could have been Metroid Prime Remastered. Like, there is not a single thing in that trailer I saw, and I'm like, oh, wow, they're really pushing the franchise in a bold new direction. And
but do you need it to? Don't you just want more Metroid Prime? I said
that and people gave me shit. Johnny, Metroid Prime came out in like 2002, and I think it is a clear top 10 game of all time. It's better than Super Metroid. But holy shit, after 20 years, I don't just need Metroid Prime again because I love Metroid Prime. Look at what Zelda has done in 20 years. We're off like flying and building like insane contraptions in Tears of the Kingdom and like have this amazing open world. And they're like, oh yeah, a Metroid Prime game? You're going to be, going through corridors that look like an old decrepit sci-fi planet and shooting Halo monsters. You're going to turn into a ball and roll through a little thing. Like, yeah, that's Metroid Prime, but fucking in 20 years, I don't see anything in their big announcement trailer that even slightly pushes the franchise forward in any single meaningful way.
I mean, we saw very little, one. The other thing I'll say about it is it looked very bright. It looked Zelda bright, which I thought was interesting. Like the world that Samus was on that they show.
I don't know. I didn't notice that either way. But
well, Metroid Prime, all the Metroid Prime games had like a darker hue and overtone, right? It was like a shadowy, like everything kind of felt shadowy or like muted tones. And this was a much brighter environment. Take a look at it again and tell me if you...
I mean, the opening scene they showed was like a Call of Duty war zone. Wasn't it like a purple planet with like some...
Well, yeah, but like when they pan to Samus and she's standing there on the world, it's like a green world.
You mean at the very end?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had big open green spaces, though.
Not like this one. Like, yes, but this one, the art direction felt brighter there, so I was unsure what was happening.
All right, well, I'm happy you noticed a difference. I watched one trailer breakdown on YouTube because I'm like, someone has to be like, come on, this literally looks like Metroid Prime Remastered. There's nothing here. And the first thing they said is like, check out the reticle. The reticle's different on the screen. And I just shut it off there. I'm like, okay, so there's nothing to fucking see here. If we're talking about the aiming reticle, as if that's a difference that I was worth waiting 17 years for.
I'm going to disagree with you. It looks a lot nicer than... I think you're forgetting how rough the original GameCube version looked.
Metroid Prime does not look rough. Metroid Prime looks
it's
pretty amazing and runs at 60 FPS.
Yes. Look, all credit to Metroid Prime. It's a great game. What they did was amazing. But a lot of it, and the draw distances were pretty bad. This is better. There's a lot...
I'm not saying the graphics aren't better.
Oh.
But we still got the, it's got weird lock-on aiming, which, that's Metroid Prime's thing. It's got, the side dashing. That stuff was built into Metroid Prime because it was a GameCube game, and GameCube had, a shitty controller with, a weird right joystick. And, I understand keeping that stuff there for a game 17 years later, but we don't need to build this game as if it was still constrained to the GameCube, and there's nothing in terms of gameplay ideas that doesn't look like this could easily be a Wii game trailer besides the graphics, and everyone would be like, oh man, they're just making another one of those, huh? But I think there's more excitement because it's 17 years since we fucking played one of these.
Also, the Warzone in the beginning is kind of interesting because the other Metroid Prime games were pretty sparse. You were very solitary in that. I don't know. I'm interested. Are you not here for it? I'm here for it. Just give me more Metroid Prime.
I'm still here for it. I mean, it's Metroid Prime 4. It's one of the only games that I'm actually looking forward to. It's just, man, after such a long wait and after they canceled it, I don't know what I was expecting, but when you saw the Breath of the Wild trailer, you're like, holy shit, this is a Zelda game? This is where they're taking the Zelda franchise? And you were super pumped the second you saw that. And here I'm just like, okay, it's going to be another Metroid Prime game. Okay,
what about Mario and Luigi the Brothership? How'd you feel about that?
I don't know. The kind of Nintendo side games, Johnny, Nintendo games are too easy and have too many text boxes. I just don't have time for a lot of their bullshit. It's people are like, yeah, you've grown out of it. They have to make the games accessible to kids too. And it's like, all right, yeah, I can't play a game for 20 hours just because the last 2 hours are actually kind of challenging and fun.
I will say, I actually forgot about some of the games I'm re-looking through the list, but I'm excited that a lot of the thing is that these with Nintendo Directs, a lot of the stuff has already been announced, and then you're just okay, yeah, this is finally coming. Dragon Quest 3, Dragon Quest 3.
No, I'm pretty sure it had a better
2D
title than
remake. That is the clunkiest title ever. They didn't need to say 2D remake. They could have just called it remake.
If you say HD, isn't remake implied as well? Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D
Why not
remake?
just call it Dragon Quest 3 Switch or something? Whatever. Or just... Dude, that's a terrible title. But I'm excited it's there, and I was worried that they would do this and not do 1 and 2, and then the little surprise drop at the end that they were doing the first 2. That was cool. I was like, all right, excellent. Because I don't know if you know, but yeah, 3 is technically first in the timeline. I think the guy said it. He went through it. Yeah, the guy went through it. You play 3 first, and that's okay. For all those who are worried.
All right. I just want to talk about Metroid Prime. I didn't even look at half the other things because I know I'm not playing them.
Capcom Fighting Collection?
I saw some people excited for that because I think it's the first release of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in a very long time, and that game's $180 now on PS2.
Yeah, well, it's you just get a sweet collection of them that are there. You get, I'm excited about Luigi's Mansion because now I can play it on the Switch and I don't have to do it on the 3DS. That's good. I'm not excited about Mario.
I didn't watch the actual things that missed it. So Luigi's Mansion 2 is coming to Switch. All right.
Yep.
I'm here for it. That's good. That's going to be one of those things where 20 years from now, people are going to look back and they're going to be like, you're telling me Luigi's Mansion 3 came out before Luigi's Mansion 2 when they're collecting the Switch set.
They are. Hey, how about Donkey Kong Country Returns HD?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
No thanks.
Yes. Man, it would be cool to have a new Donkey Kong game, but why don't we just make the other Donkey Kong game we already had and make it over again? Because we already did it with Tropical Freeze.
Yeah. Hey, Wii Sports getting more game. Wii Sports is just existing, like not taking shit from anyone. Still here, still making new games. Yeah.
You know, get that basketball update.
Whatever. It's the Nintendo Sports style, but we all know it's Wii Sports. Come on. Weird thing is that the Lego Horizon Adventures, I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't. What's that?
So Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a Lego game, which I don't know who asked for this or why, but and then it's going to be on the Switch.
Such like a crazy mashup.
Yeah. Yeah, more Hello Kitty games. Come on. Get excited for Hello Kitty.
I mean, all right, some of this stuff isn't for me. I think the Zelda is the most exciting, surprising announcement. But like overall, if I wasn't being like, oh, only things that cater to my tastes should matter, it seemed like they had like an absolutely killer event. And like I don't get a lot of gaming news, and just like this was a whole bunch of gaming news that came across my eyeballs, even though I don't really care about what's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get a lot of stuff, including a new Zelda handheld, your favorite.
So I saw that, and I look at it, and it's like the golden Switch with the same stupid golden Zelda logo, and I can't believe that doesn't already exist for some reason.
Yep.
Oh, guys, we need to make another $100 million. Let's put out another limited edition handheld.
I think they want to get top selling console of all time. That's my quote from our friend OGCIB. That's for you, Corey.
Okay, that would make sense, but how far away are they? I'm looking at the Wikipedia numbers right now.
I don't know exactly, but they're close.
They're like 15 million away. Can they do that? Is Switch 2 coming out like next year? That seems like that would be hard to bridge that gap.
I mean, look, all they need to do is make this Zelda console and then like another Mario one. Come on, we're there.
15 million? Yeah. Johnny, let's talk about the Intellivision, which sold 3 million. I know that because we still have to talk about it, because technically it was a fairly popular video game console.
Okay, if you say so.
That took cartridges.
Oh. Well, that's weird. I'm not going to help you transition here. I'm not going to help you. I'm not doing it.
Johnny,
no.
we did a video game box collecting episode where we talked about all the boxes the consoles had, and I thought it was super dumb, and it was like 4.5 hours long. And everyone loved it, and we got tons of people commenting and giving feedback on it.
I don't know if people loved it, but they had opinions, man. I cannot believe the traction we got with that box episode. People had something to say.
People like agreeing and disagreeing with opinions. I think we should just scrap all Collector's Quest's ideas for the future and just change this into a tier list episode, and maybe get some clickbait thumbnails, and we're just going to do tier lists.
Should we... Let's tier list the Nintendo Direct.
I didn't watch it though, so what am I gonna do? Zelda and
then
Metroid.
You're just like half the other YouTubers out there, right?
Is that what they do? See, I only watched the Metroid trailer breakdown, so now my YouTube recommendations is just like all these channels that have 300 viewers, and they're just doing like random Metroid Prime 4 breakdowns.
So here's what you do, Tyler. You watch someone else's breakdown, and then you just copy all of their content directly, and then put a little bit of your own stuff in there. And then it's like a whole new opinion.
I mean, it's not like the facts change, like what they're pointing out. Like, oh my God, I can't believe Astix from Metroid Prime Hunters is here. I've really been wondering what the backstory of Astix is. This is such a cool thing. It's such a cool nod that Nintendo is finally going to pay off Metroid Prime Federation Force. There are some fucking Metroid fans on YouTube that care about the deep Metroid lore. I am a Metroid fan, but goddamn, I could not name a single Metroid bad guy besides Mother Brain.
Crane and Ridley and Mother Brain. That's the only ones, right?
I actually could name the Metroid Prime bosses, but like some of these people are like, oh, the backstory of these characters. I'm like, what? No, like Ridley's cool because he's a giant dinosaur that attacks you. Who cares about his backstory?
You don't want to talk about the Hunter version? No, I don't want to either. Hey, Tyler.
Yeah.
Are you ready to do the tier list? Let's go.
Let's do it. We are not doing every single console that came out with cartridges because, man, there are a lot that, one, we wouldn't have enough opinions on because we probably don't own any cartridges of. And two, no one needs to hear about, like, the epic cassette vision, the console that, of course, had the first Dragon Ball game on it, which only came out in Japan. I think it sold like 300,000 units, and you probably don't have one and never will have one. So the popular ones, Johnny.
We're staying away from all foreign, by that meaning not North American releases, right? We're not even talking about the Super Famicom cartridges here, right?
It's on our list.
Oh, Famicom. Okay, Famicom is on there, but I think that's the only exception, really, right? Like we're not dipping into any others.
There's maybe another small one, but yeah.
Like I don't even think we put Super Famicom on there.
It's on our list.
You did put Super Famicom. When did you sneak those in? I didn't see you put them. Anyways,
there. We're not doing SG-1000.
We're not dipping into the microcomputers and all of the tapes, especially not the European stuff. So largely North American based, with a few sprinkling and a few that you've heard of, like Super Famicom and Famicom. And I think that's it, right, Tyler?
Johnny, let's start where it all started. With before the Fairchild Channel F, which gets credit for having the first video game cartridges, with the Magnavox Odyssey, which does not get credit for having the first video game cartridges because
it's not a cartridge.
Because the game logic isn't actually on the, I'm going to call them cartridges. I don't know what you call them, PCBs. All the Odyssey 1 games is a series of pins that jump pins within the console to each other to cause different behavior. So there's no actual programming on them unless you consider the actual PCB design. Oh, this bridges pin 2 with pin 6. Maybe that's enough programming for it to count as a cartridge. I don't know.
I don't think so.
They don't even have names because the cartridges go with different games. So a game will tell you like, oh, this game uses cartridge number 2. So they just have a number on there. And there's no packaging or anything for these. These are just like loose PCBs that you just throw around. How do we feel about the Magnavox Odyssey? You actually have a rubric that we're going through, right?
Yeah, I figure we can go through the rubric, but I don't think it really applies to this one.
All right.
This feels
there's
more
no art because there's
than
nothing on it.
Yeah, but anyways, that's what we're gonna say is the first true-ish cartridge or edge case before we get to the Fairchild, right? That's what we wanted to really make our point there.
Oh, okay. So, all right, we're not rating these. I think they're kind of cute.
I mean, we're not gonna rate the Odyssey. We'll rate Fairchild. Like, how do you rate these things? They're all. Like, you want to give it a rating? That's fine.
They've got like these giant beefy pins. Like, I feel like so many cartridges, like it look like, I don't know, a Game Boy or a Switch, and they're like, oh, don't look at our pins. They're fragile. We don't want you to look at our pins. And the Odyssey pins are like an inch long. They're like, these pins need to be long enough for you to jam them into our video game console. And I kind of like that about it.
This is like you're doing a weird video game cartridge upskirt, and I don't like it.
It's unique. I don't know. We don't have to rate it. I'm giving it at least a 2 out of 5. It's not complete garbage, even though it doesn't have art. It doesn't have a title, and it doesn't.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it a 2 for you, so we can put a rating in there. But let's give the rubric, shall we? Same basic categories, and that's shelf appeal. How does it look on the shelf, and how much do I want it on the shelf? Quality. Does it feel well made? Size and proportion. Is it overly big and heavy? Is it awkwardly proportioned? Is it very small, very thick? Also, is it consistent? Art appeal. Does it do a good job of showcasing the game? Does the label or art make you want to play this game?
So we talking about the Fairchild Channel F now, Johnny?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about the Fairchild Channel F. We hated the box. How do we feel about the cart?
Johnny, it's the first video game cartridge. The game logic is in the cartridge. Interchangeable games. What an idea.
Whoa.
So we just invented this new technology. It's going to create one of the biggest industries ever, basically, because we're not going to get to selling 150 million PS2s if all the games are just built into the console.
No.
So what color should we make? So we have this fantastic new innovation. It's the 70s. What color should we make it?
I don't know. Should we make it yellow?
Yeah, bright yellow. That is a choice, considering every other cartridge that's ever been made is basically black or gray.
Yeah. Yellow.
They stand out.
Yeah, they do. They are very much of the era in which they were created. They look like they belong in the home of the 70s and early 80s.
They do. They look so inspired by 8-tracks, just in terms of their size and proportions and things like that. The way you kind of jam it into the console. The guy who made them definitely had an 8-track collection. He's like, yeah, we should do this for video games. Kids, if you don't know what an 8-track is, it's before cassettes, after cassettes. At some point in time, there was a music format with giant cartridges that you jammed into like your car, you just jammed it into the front of your car. Go look up 8-tracks. It's like a tape format that doesn't live on and no one collects or cares about anymore.
Yeah, here's the thing Tyler normally says. He says, go ask your mom, but don't ask your mom about 8-track. Probably go ask your grandparents.
Yes.
So, yeah. Also, so they also put these... I don't understand the ridges at the bottom of them. Like, what is this ribbed bottom they have?
I think it's just for flair. I think they made it flat, and they're like, oh, that's not very interesting. Why don't we just make some ridges?
I felt like the ridges should be at the top, though, so you can pull it out.
See, a lot of the other cartridges do that. But
yeah.
It's the first one. They're allowed to make design mistakes here.
That is true. Okay. So, anyways, how do you feel about the shelf appeal of this thing?
I think that's got some shelf appeal because they're yellow and no one has them, so it's a little bit interesting.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of the cartridge world, they're a decent size. I'm going to go with are we rating these out of 5? I'll go with 3.
Yeah. Well, we didn't say that. It's out of 5, just like the last one. Just 1 through 5. 1 being terrible, 5 being good.
Let's go with 3.
Okay, you're going to go with the 3. The
yellow is really propping up that score.
Yeah. So they don't have end labels, or do they have end labels that just fall off? Is that what it is? They just all...
No, they do have end labels. They say like video cart number on the top. They're not great, but they exist.
Yeah, one of my big holdups is going to be, does it have an end label? What's up with cart 8? Is that like the boxes are just like about the size of the carts too on some of them, right? Is that what the issue is?
I don't know if that's an issue, but okay.
Yeah, all right. I mean, when I see a stack of them, I'm like, why does that cart look weird? I'm like, oh no, that's the box. So I like that the end label is clearly readable when it's in the system. That means you can like lay them down and kind of stack them. But that like ridging, I guess that ridge is actually at the top. So that ridge is so you can pull it out, Tyler. That's the top. That's weird.
Right. We keep it. We'll get into this. These vintage cartridges, it's really confusing which side is the top because it's not consistent.
Yeah,
there are games on like Atari where the label will be facing one way by one company and the other way by another company. Both me and Johnny agree. If you were to set the cartridge on a table, you would do so pins down. That is the way the end label should be facing. So
and
these are upside down, basically. Channel F cartridges, we would call them upside down.
Yeah. So, and you guys can have your own opinion on that, and maybe it's just because we came up with Nintendo and that like just became the standard for video games. So here in these older vintage systems where they just flip the label, it can be either way and sometimes inconsistent on a system itself. This shit drives me wild. I hate that. I do like that the end label is readable. Okay, the ridges now make sense. But what those ridges also do means you can't like stack them on top of each other to display on a shelf because you can't really display them. Like you could display it on its side. It's okay. I don't think a 3 is a horrible score. I feel like maybe I'm at a 2. Nah, we'll we'll go 3 and maybe I'll regret. This is one of these things I might have to come back.
You
So
have
when
to rate it on a cartridge
score,
scale too, because I think you're going to give like low scores to all cartridges if you're going to put them on like a vacuum.
It's going to be very hard to get a 5 on a cartridge for shelf appeal. So,
Johnny, what's the next category? Because I do have some things to complain about with these cartridges.
Quality. Tell me about the quality. I mean, clearly
have one
the end
Channel
labels
F
fall
cartridge, off. Johnny. So I can't like rate the wear or anything. I don't know. It seems fine.
They look like they're surviving, and I don't know if that's because no one cares about them.
Because they all got played like 5 times max.
Yeah.
Is this the game? Is this the console where I played every single game and they're all terrible?
Yes.
Or was that the RCA Studio? No,
what's nice is that it doesn't really rub. That there's space between the label and the system, so it doesn't like totally rub the label, which I think is what keeps some of the labels in good shape.
I think that so the end label, it's a little bit inset too, which helps it not get caught on anything. I'm gonna give it a 4. I got no problems with it.
Yeah, 4. I mean, the adhesive falls off, but it's been a long time.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, we'll give it. It's like 50 years old almost. We gotta give it a little bit of credit there. No, your glue didn't hold up for 50 years.
Yeah, but to be fair, for quality, we are talking about the quality of the plastic cartridge, how it protects the chip inside, and then also the quality of the label, because that's going to be a big issue with some other cartridges. Looking
All
at
right, let me go down to the 3. Just because like there's a little bit of like glue bleed and stuff, and like when you get to like I don't know a Game Boy cartridge, like those labels generally are pretty nice. So,
okay, all right, size. How do we feel about the size of these things?
Johnny, they're too big. Johnny, considering how simple Channel F games are, these cartridges are too big.
I mean, but the technology was different, so like
I know. They got some big ass components in them. I mean, it depends if you want like a real chunky boy to hold in your hands.
They are a little bit light for what they are, though. I feel like there's a lot of air padding inside of that cartridge.
Yeah. I don't like that either. I'm thinking of like what I'm gonna rate the other cartridges.
Yeah, well, like this, we're allowed to go back and revisit our scores after we got a little bit under our feet here.
I don't know. I think it's too big. I'm going to 2. I'd rather them be smaller.
Yeah, I would rather them be smaller too. Art.
Okay, here we go.
I like the art.
You like the art on the cartridge?
I do.
Which one are you looking at? You looking at like 1?
Yeah, I like 1.
Okay.
I don't like 3. Like 3 is not good, but 4 and 5 are nice. Like
so you can't look at the first ones. You got to look at most games don't look like the first ones. Look at anything else. I don't know, 16.
Okay, well, 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5 are good, but I see what you mean. When you get to 5, or you get like 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, up to 24, they're very boring. So it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Let me just to paint a word picture of what's on this cartridge label. At the top, huge bold letters, it says Channel F. Like, yeah, genius. I know this is a Channel F cartridge. You made them freaking yellow. The biggest thing on the cartridge is the number, because the games have names. Number 9 is Drag Race, which is in the tiniest. It looks like copyright text. It's so small. It says Channel F huge, Video Cart huge, 9, enormous, and then Drag Race, it's literally copyright text under Video Cart. It's insane how small it is. And then half of the cartridge label is taken up with instructions, which is a good idea because kids are idiots, but it makes the cartridge look like trash.
But
it's
also,
like
how could you
on NES?
What if you needed the instructions for the game while you were mid-game? What are you going to do?
Not enough sticks out of the console for you to actually read those instructions mid-game.
No.
But I appreciate that from a kid who bought used games and didn't have manuals at all. But, fucking whatever. Like, I would have loved if Atari games had instructions on the cartridge, because I never knew what any of the games were. I was just, like, figuring out, like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't like what's game 17? Like, I'm an impatient kid. I'm not gonna like play all the games and figure them out.
Were you a stupid kid? Like, because it's one button.
But I mean, I got to figure out like, oh, okay,
It's
game
one
17
button.
of combat. Oh, okay, this is the one where if you shoot, you become invisible for 2 seconds, and then things bounce off the wall once. Like those are what Atari game variations were.
Okay. Still one button.
God damn it.
So reductive, I know. All right. So I agree. It is wild that they put like the Video Cart 3 or whatever is blackjack and they just made blackjack all tiny. I don't know what's going on with that. It does have end labels. I do like one, but yeah, you're right. We can't go based on one of them. I'm not gonna go all the way to a 1. No, it's kind of wild.
Oh, did I not say my score? I'll go all the way to a 1. Fuck it. These are terrible. 1.
You're gonna go to a 1 for this? I don't.
What is worse? You can't imagine a worse looking video game cartridge label.
I like the black label. I really like 1 and 2. I like the way they look.
Okay, you can't just go with like that's not the design the whole series was though.
I know, but it feels like Sesame Street, and that just does something.
It does. It has like the 70s vibes that you would get from like an old episode of Sesame Street because it's got like
1,
really
2,
cool
3, 4,
fonts.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
11, 12.
Yes. That do they still show that on TV? I hope they do.
I
know they
have
don't.
no idea.
But it's got that kind of vibe to the fonts.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with 2. I'm gonna give it a 2.
All right. People are desperate for us to stop talking about Fairchild Channel F. So let's.
I know.
Anything. What else do we got?
Thank God it's over, they said.
Johnny, we both ended up at a 2 out of 5 on Fairchild Channel F. Let's move on.
We sure did.
To a console in this boring world. Well, all right, so actually, you know what? Fairchild Channel F, honestly, a bunch of personality in the world of cartridges. Let's move on to the console that has the most personality. We're talking the Magnavox Odyssey 2. Man, there is no mistaking when you find a Magnavox Odyssey 2 cartridge. Sometimes you see like a cartridge, like a little square rectangle that says Coleco on it. And like it could be, if you haven't like looked at these games forever, like that could be Intellivision, it could be ColecoVision, it could be Atari, because Coleco made games for all 3 of those. You see a Magnavox Odyssey 2 game and you're like, hot damn, here it is. That's a Magnavox Odyssey 2 game.
Are we proud of that?
I don't know. I wouldn't be happy to find any loose Odyssey 2 game because the games are so worthless. Like, why would you ever be happy to find one? Man, I like an Odyssey 2 cartridge.
Okay, tell me why you like it.
Johnny, they've got a tiny handle on them. And I'm not talking
So
like
stupid.
Jaguar, where they built like a handle into Jaguar cartridges, but it's like, it's like all molded one piece. No, this is a full-ass GameCube console handle. You put like 4 fingers in there and rip this thing out of the console.
I hate this. I hate it. It also creates like a breakpoint for it. I think it looks
I've never
stupid.
seen one broken.
I've never seen. Well, it's because no one wants to touch these.
Oh, you got me there.
Yeah. Also, I'm just correcting our scores real quick. You were at a 2.3 for Fairchild. I'm at a 2.5.
Okay.
All right. So what do you give it for shelf appeal and how it fits on a shelf? Because I'm at a 1.
Yeah, okay. So one because the handle makes it needlessly big, and 2, not only are there no end labels, the handle would have literally blocked the end label. So yeah, there's 0 shelf appeal to these.
No top label. It's stupid. I mean, you can still like it. You could still go, like, you might like the way they look on a shelf. I just, like, how do you stack them? I don't know what you do with these.
The problem, no matter what you do, so this happens for anything without an end label. Whenever you put them on a shelf, it just becomes like blur into the background mass of like black something. Like, I don't know what they are, so like, how can I be excited for it?
Yeah, especially when you don't have a top label, it becomes especially challenging. All right. Quality. Tyler, you said you've never seen one broken.
Yeah. They're all right. They do have a little bit of that too big thing going on. I don't know. I got no problems with them. They don't really have like glue bleed through problems because they got like that black label. I don't know. I got
What's the other cartridge that has the handle that looks like a dynamite plunger?
That looks like, is it Atari Jaguar?
No, it's like literally got like a T handle.
Oh yeah, I mean there are some Atari cartridges that look like that, but is there a console that has only that?
Maybe it's just the Atari.
It might just be some Atari cartridges. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the most solid thing in the world. I'll still just go with 3 for the quality. I don't have real problems with it though.
3, okay. I mean, yeah, there's not much going on.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to fault it. Like, everyone I look at has survived, even with these handles, which provide breakpoints that I would think would diminish the quality somehow. But I just looked through 100 pictures or so before we started to see if I could find any, because I wanted to bring up that these stupid handles break. And I was like, no, but I mean, that's not pure research. Like, that's not the best research I've ever done on anything. So whatever.
I mean, Johnny, I know multiple people who have collected every Odyssey 2 game. You know, there's less than 50 of them, and I don't think anyone's ever brought up a broken one. So even if they did break it, would not be hard to find one that isn't broken.
I was hoping, so I had something to say about it.
Oh, okay, something to say about it. The delightful handle. Delightful.
Yep.
All right, give me another category. What are we rating on this stupid thing?
Well, let's talk about the size.
It's too big because of the stupid handle.
Big. What are you giving it, a 1?
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, 1. Like, if I'm rating the size, like it's stupid. I don't know. This is the only place I can really give it props for the handle, though, right?
No, that would have been your shelf appeal, I think.
But it has no shelf appeal because of the handle. How can it be so? All right, this handle doesn't impact the art. It makes it too big. And it makes it worse on a shelf, but it is still delightful.
So, remember when I said X factor that can apply to a category? So, that's where you can bump a score because you found something delightful like the handle.
All right, I'll bump it here. It makes more sense in the I'll bump it up all the way up to a 2 when it definitely should be a 1 for size because it's
okay.
Just
Tyler getting a little bump here. He's got some X factor going on the Odyssey 2. That X factor is a negative for me. It's a 1.
Yep.
But let's talk about something I like worse than the handle. Or less than the handle. And that's the cartridge labels.
Really?
Yeah, because, I mean, this we could have brought up in quality. Because these labels always fade. They're always faded. The glue bleed is bad. The art, like the kitschy art that is on the front of the box and the colorful art did not translate onto the label. It's like two-tone yellow usually, and it does not look great.
Yeah, it's like they only had red ink, or, you know, it's like yellow and orange. They made it monochrome, whereas the boxes are really fun and colorful, and like it's got the same art style on the cartridge, but it's a lot less fun and colorful.
Yeah, so
seems a little bit cheap, Magnavox.
Yeah, it does cheap, and like I mean, I should have put it in the quality, but in fact, you know what? I'm going back to the quality score for this, and I'm lowering it to a 2 for the label, because that label bleed gets to be atrocious.
You're right. Put mine to a 2.
And the fading. Now, if we're just judging the art based on like what it is, I don't like that monochrome, but it's still not horrible. It's not like the worst thing I've ever seen. So I'm not a 1 on it. I think I'm at a 2 on this. Should it be a 2 or a 3? Like, yeah, I think it's a 2.
I like how consistent it is. Like I don't like when the cartridge really emphasizes the platform. You could look at any Odyssey 2 game. You know it's an Odyssey 2 game. So do we really need half of every single cartridge taken up by the gigantic Odyssey 2 logo? But I kind of like the Odyssey 2 logo because it is like very 70s.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm going 3. I like the consistency and 70s-ishness of it.
Maybe a 3. Maybe it's a 3. Like if it had been color, I'd probably be.
Oh yeah.
Would I be at a 3 or a 4? Yeah. These would be really cool if they were color, especially like on those black backgrounds. And instead, they just made it dull. So what are you at? 2 or a 3?
Yeah, I'm at a 3.
Okay. I can sit with you at a 3, I guess. Maybe I'll regret it, but there we go. 3.
It turns out Odyssey had the best cartridges all along.
I am at a 1.8 for this. You were at a solid 2, so it got ranked worse than the Fairchild. Anyways, let's get on to a console that some people have heard of. The Atari 2600, Tyler. little black squares, right? Super consistent. Everyone knows what an Atari cartridge looks like, right?
I hope so.
Right?
They used to be like so common. They were like 50 cents at flea markets, giant bins of them all the time. Man, I have passed up a lot of Atari cartridges in my time. And I don't even know where these lots came from. When people have like Atari cartridges, they have these big buckets, and it's just like, why do you have 400 Atari games and like half of them are dupes? And like not even just like the resellers that have them at flea markets. If someone told you, oh yeah, I have Atari 2600 games in my basement. If you went down there, they have multiple copies of some games, and I don't know why that is. Like you would never look at someone's SNES collection. It's like, oh yeah, I just have 2 copies of the Seventh Saga. You'd be like, what the fuck? Why do you have 2 copies of Seventh Saga? What's going on here? But with Atari games, it's just super common. Why is that, Johnny?
They made a bunch and they were cheap and they got dumped en masse.
People got bored and they're like, oh yeah, you could have all my Atari games, whatever.
Yeah.
And no one would ever do that with Super Nintendo because those are precious.
No, like, because there was very few Atari games that, like, really lured you in for longer experiences. Then you're like, oh, this kind of does what the arcade does. Or, like, this is, like, the narrative just wasn't there for most of them, I think. But let's talk about the shelf appeal. There is some inconsistencies here that we should bring up. Though, in general, I think the shelf appeal of an Atari cart is good. Is that crazy?
I think that's crazy. As someone who has a bunch of loose Atari games and I don't know what to do with them, I literally can't put them on a shelf because they're too small. Like I would be able to put Fairchild games on a shelf, but like I try like double stacking them. They have like rounded edges, so they can't like quite stack one on top of each other without like sometimes tilting.
I've seen them stack. I thought they stack really well. Don't they stack well? Like, what are you talking about?
No, if you'd stacked like 2 solid rows of Atari cartridges, like the top row would start like making the bottom row tilt and wobble.
I mean, I always see good stacks of people's Atari cartridges. Are they just like?
I mean, no, they would stack if you put them like flat, but not if you put them like side on side.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking like long side down. So you can read the label.
that would stack fine. But then the problem you run into is that there are so many cartridge styles, and a lot of them don't stack nicely. So if we were just talking about like the default Atari cartridge, those are nice. But then you're like, oh, Coleco made a different cartridge type, and all they have all these here's stupid things too.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a pass for those because boxes did some of the same stuff, right? Where it's like, oh, there was a series of boxes that were all okay, like different colors, but like the Coleco games, there's enough for them to go into a set. I think they generally look okay. And shelf, there's a specific media shelf that I think is really good for these, and it's the what's it called?
The Atlantic
Oscar. It's not the 1080 though. It's the fixed shelf version of the 1080. So it's the one so it's shorter. And the Atari, and it's really thin and flimsy. It's like the worst shelf you've ever built in your life.
I know what you're talking about, but I've never bought one because they're so thin and flimsy, or at least I've read.
But for Atari cartridges, they're really well. And then the other thing I like, and this is like, because they used to fit in like old tape things. So we're thinking about media from our age, but when there was like a lot more tapes and stuff, there was a lot of like media shelves that Atari games used to fit in. So I'm thinking of like Atari shelves I saw as a kid and stuff. And they weren't like huge, but like people were able to organize them in such a way. And I think back to like old Rooms of Dooms that used to have like these tape walls. And now with 3D printing, I see a lot of like cool custom printed like little shelving units for them. I mean, usually it's like 8 high or whatever, but I think people have gone and figured out a way to make Atari a presentable shelf thing. And I like that you can stack them up and down and it's not too hard to get them in and out. They're light. You can like stack like 10 high. It's not like a big deal. Like it's not like a big stack of, when you have a big stack of books to get that middle book out. And you've got the little nubbins usually on the side. So yeah, I'm okay with these on the shelf.
All right, I looked at the rest of the list, and on the scale of loose cartridges on a shelf, I'm going to change my opinion and go with a 4 for Atari 2600, because, man, there are a lot of cartridges I don't want to see on a shelf, and I'm kind of fine looking at Atari cartridges. I feel like they are so cheap and ubiquitous that there are a lot of people who just have, like, a shitload of Atari cartridges. So I do kind of appreciate when people, like, throw 100 cartridges on a shelf, just because, like, yeah, those are all my Atari games. I don't know. I just have so many of them.
Yeah. So again, there is some consistency issues which we can bang on. But yeah, my little X factor there, which gives me a 4 here as well, is that, you know, that people have done the work to make this available, and also pre us buying shelving units en masse. You know, people figured this out and had systems for putting all their Atari games on a shelf. Also, lots of drawers. I remember people pulling out drawers of Atari games. Like, it'd be like, oh, this is our drawer. And you'd just be like, oh, that's just like 100,000 Atari games in there. What is going on?
Man, remember drawers? They used to sell, like, drawers to throw in your VHS tapes or your cassettes. Why don't we have drawers anymore? No one ever sold, like, a drawer unit for Switch games, because they just assume, like, oh, you're a modern video gamer, so you're definitely going to have 400 of these. You need a shelf. You're going to outgrow a drawer. What are you, crazy?
Yeah. You're stupid. Let's talk about the quality, though.
What are your thoughts on Atari 2600 cartridge quality, Johnny?
Well, from a consistency standpoint, I don't love it. So we have some label peel problems. Do you feel like that's a super wide problem where the top falls off?
That's a huge problem. I have like, you know, boxes of Atari 2600 cartridges, as you do, and you could just, like, look at the bottom. You'll probably find 1 or 2 end labels that have just fallen off, because that's a huge problem with Atari games. The end labels just fall off. I used to be precious about it. I used to discuss this on, like, Atari Age, and Atari Age, they're not, like, weird, like, anal Nintendo Age type people. But there was a certain amount of people who felt that, like, if you took a glue stick and you stuck that label back onto that cartridge, like, that is unacceptable restoration.
It's modified.
And man, I'm the most, like, I wouldn't want, like, a staple replaced in a manual or anything if it's rusty. But if the label has completely fallen off the cartridge, you better believe I'm taking a glue stick and I'm putting that label back on the cartridge. Man, if there was a Nintendo, there's some, like, Nintendo World Championships where the end label is peeling up, I would take a glue stick and stick that shit back down so hard, I don't care. I'm not dealing with loose and disconnected end labels. I'm putting them back in the cartridge. But yeah, it does suck that's a problem.
So, and the thing about this, since it's not like one label, like the Nintendo label on most carts, when the top falls off, it's just, like, kind of done.
Yeah. I appreciate that they're different labels. I think that's good, because the problem with Nintendo stickers is that those can just peel up because it doesn't have enough grip on that tiny little ledge on the end. But that's not, like, a huge problem like it is on Atari, because they just have better adhesive.
Yeah. So here's the other thing, and I think this is where I put it, is that the labels on the cartridges, this goes back to that upside down thing. It's inconsistent. Some are up, some are down, depending on the game. I hate this. I feel like this is a quality issue. There was no standards there for, like, here's how our labels are going to be. So basically the end label will say Pac-Man and it's on the top. And it's designed in such a way so that when the cartridge is in, you can read Pac-Man, you know, so Pac-Man isn't upside down. But then the art is usually going into the cartridge, which I dislike. So the art is usually so that you could read it if you were facing the console. But then some games have it so the art you could read it if you had the cartridge standing up on a table. Yeah, I dislike
this. But I didn't believe you that this was a problem until we literally talked about it for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I guess there are a lot of really inconsistent Atari and ColecoVision games.
Yeah, I dislike that a lot. And I'm sure a lot of those were just packed, like, pins up, and I'm always like, pins down, right? Packet pins down?
Yeah, what are we talking about? Opening a package and finding a game pins up? That would be chaos.
Well, especially because it's just like a little, like, reservoir where things would then fall in and then stay in there. No, don't do that.
Well, so the thing is, Atari games, they were packed pins down, but you open them from the top. So you only saw the end label. So it didn't matter that the cartridge label was quote unquote upside down in the packaging because you never opened the front of the packaging. Well, I guess on the first games, the gatefold boxes.
But you didn't see inside. It just had a gatefold.
Hold on. Those were pins down. All right. I don't know. Johnny. It's inconsistent. is the main thing. I have a counterpoint to the inconsistency and the end labels falling off. I had
cartridges are indestructible.
I had a wooden shelf, a solid wooden shelf, and I was a video game collector. And this was in like middle school through high school. And man, this thing had like multiple Intellivision consoles, just like all the random flea market shit I put on this shelf. And half of the shelf was on my carpet, and half of the shelf was like over the edge of my carpet. And this shelf was propped up by 2 Atari 2600 combat cartridges. And man, that shelf was stable. So these cartridges are basically indestructible as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I'm going to 3 still.
They are,
because there's still the glue problems are a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they are indestructible. I don't like the inconsistency and the quality of the other things we talked about. But this is like label quality too. That's why I wanted to make the distinction there. I think it doesn't go to a 1 or anything for me. Is it a 3 for me? I think I'm at a 3. Where are you?
3.
You're at a 3 as well?
Yep.
Okay. Because otherwise they're pretty rugged. Let's talk about an area where we have more consistency problems, and this is a common theme for Atari. Size. Tyler, let's talk about the size and proportion of these carts. Like, everyone thinks of the little Atari Black's like rectangle, and it's a generally pleasing shape. It's pretty well known, but that's not the only cart they made. They made a lot of different weird carts, and third parties did other things, and we have Coleco carts and Activision carts, and these are not all the same things.
I mean, whatever. But all right. So yes, there are differences. So like Coleco, Activision cartridge, they don't have the separate end label. They have the one big label that wraps around to the end.
Yep.
And then Coleco cartridges, they have little nubbins at the end for you to grab so you can get a better grip on them when you.
Some of the Atari games also have those nubbins. Not as big, or it's not nubbins. It's like ridged at the top of them.
So. That is maybe maybe that's bad for size, but other than that, man, I love the size of an Atari cartridge, Johnny. It's just the size of the PCB, but a little bit thicker, so it's got some substance to it. There's no bullshit like the NES where it's like 4 times the size of the cartridge.
You also have those double enders.
I mean, those are stupid. Yeah, like all the I don't want any of the inconsistent stuff. I would give it a 5 if it was just the Atari cartridges.
Okay, so what are you at?
4.
You're at a 4 for size, and I'm gonna go 3. I'm a little rougher on the Atari.
Yeah.
Art. How do we feel about the art?
Cartridges. Art. I mean, it's pretty similar to the boxes, which are an easy 5. I think sometimes like they have a bunch of text label cartridges. No, the text labels. So I can't go a 5, I guess. But I mean, it's still Atari. So 4.
So. 4, yeah. I was going to say, going back to the box episode, you gave it a 4.
I gave Atari a 4?
Yeah.
Wow. Underrated.
For art.
Guys.
And I'm also a 4. My 3 might be harsh on size. I'll think about it. All right, let's talk about a system you really love, though. ColecoVision.
Man, I love a ColecoVision. I love the idea of ColecoVision because I love that there are so many homebrew developers who just keep making games for it, but all they make is arcade ports. Man, they love making arcade ports, and if there's anything I hate, it's a port, because why am I playing your ColecoVision version of Phoenix or whatever when I could just play Phoenix in MAME? But man,
I don't know. Why?
Those nerds. So... ColecoVision, what are we talking about? The shelf appeal?
The shelf appeal, yes, sir.
I mean, this is going to be more consistent than almost anything else until you get to like the white Donkey Kong cartridge. No, the white Donkey Kong cartridge is Atari. See, I'm already getting confused.
The Donkey Kong cart, for those who don't know, it's a mystery because it's an Atari game, by ColecoVision, made by Nintendo, and all three of those names are on that cartridge.
Yeah.
So
the Intellivision, ColecoVision, and Atari cartridges of Donkey Kong are also amazingly ubiquitous that you're going to see all of them because that game is so popular.
Yeah.
All right, so for ColecoVision, I'm sticking with Atari. I'm going 4. I don't like how prominent the ColecoVision branding is, but seeing them all lined up, like, it does make it look really nice and consistent, almost like a box.
ColecoVision, is that the one that has like the iMagic thing brand where it's got like the weird like top? I mean,
they made
like on
Atari
Moonsweeper
games too.
Okay. Did they do that too? Okay. Yeah, all right. I guess I'll go for it. They're pretty similar. It's like this and Intellivision. Intellivision's a little different, but I find that like these three systems in my brain always just blend together.
Intellivision should always be on a lower tier.
It is always on a lower tier, but I feel like they still blend it like the cartridges. It's just like, oh, it's like all stuff from it's the same time.
So it has the same thing where like there's like some third party games that are like a different, but if you look at the main ColecoVision stuff, I think they do look really nice. I'm not going up to a 5, but
okay,
they're pretty cool.
I'm fine with 4. I'm here. What do you got on quality? You keeping it the same?
Do I have a problem with them? I mean, like, I just go back to thinking like, oh man, like a Nintendo cartridge and a Game Boy cartridge, those are so nice. So how can I really give ColecoVision any props for quality?
ColecoVision one label though?
It is one label.
So that makes it worse because you get that rub on the edge. You get edge wear there where it wraps around.
It's a little bit inset, I think. Or it's got like some, I don't know what to call it. Like the cartridge, like the part with like the little grippy parts where you wiggle the cartridge out, they protrude past the label. So if you like shoved it up against the wall, the label wouldn't actually be touching the wall.
No, I like that. I like the general design of the cart, but I just feel like you get, for some reason, maybe it's the way they sit when they're on top of each other. But if you look at them, I find there's more label wear on those. And also you get that screw damage through the label. I see a lot. Do you see that on Atari a lot?
The screw damage? Like you can see like the screw in the middle of the cartridge, you mean?
Yeah, so like what'll happen is the label will puncture and you can see the screws. I don't know why the screws aren't on the back, but on ColecoVision they're definitely on the front. I don't know where they are on Atari.
No, they're also screws. I think under the label on Atari. I think so it makes it nice, but what a pain in the ass for us collectors who sometimes need to open up and verify PCBs. You know, we didn't mention that.
We didn't.
But yeah, so Atari screws are sometimes under the label, which prevent you from opening up the cartridge, which is a huge pain in the ass. I mean, you know, most people don't need to open Atari cartridges, but maybe if you found like, I don't know, Atlantis 2, it would be nice to have an easy way to open it. And I know we're going to give shit to the Famicom for that because that's the worst. So yeah, I don't know where to we got to mention that somewhere. It's a pain in the ass.
It is a pain in the ass.
But for the average person, that does make the cartridge a lot nicer because it's like, oh, look at this thing. It's got no screws. Wow, fancy.
What about the back that has the little like insert though?
That's crazy. I bet most people don't even think about that as a feature because if you've ever found a ColecoVision cartridge in the wild, you've never found it with the overlays in the back. So some ColecoVision games, like I think the earliest ones, basically the ones that Coleco put out, they have a slot in the back of the cartridge, and you were supposed to put the overlays. They slide into that slot perfectly. Super cool idea. Like someone was like really putting a lot of thought into the cartridge design of ColecoVision. Except as long as I've collected video games, I don't think I've ever seen someone actually put the overlays into the back of their ColecoVision cartridge.
No, I don't even think most people know about it.
Yeah, I haven't read the instructions or anything, but yeah, kids are stupid and they didn't do that. So it was kind of a failed feature. Cool idea. They needed a way to make it more obvious that people should be doing that.
Yeah. So I want to just bring up a couple other things that like bring the quality score down, like on this Atari, also in television. So the label wraps over where the cart seals. So even if you have to puncture the label to open the stupid thing, then you're also going to have to cut the label or like bend the label, crease the label at the top when you open it. So just something to be aware of. So these are like quality touches that are addressed by other systems later where you don't have this issue. Also, you're dealing with the same bad adhesive. So when this label peels, like you get a lot of peel, more prone to peel. And like you see a lot of games with stupid tape on them. And I hate that. You see it with Atari too, where sometimes they'll tape down that top label. Yeah. But this is like, because like when that one piece falls off, that's like one piece of it, but this is the whole label. And for whatever reason, the adhesive, the quality of this adhesive just wasn't as good as it was on Nintendo. I think the quality is a little worse than the Atari, even though I like a lot of things about it. So I'm giving it a 2.
Yeah, I'm staying at 3. You're complaining too much about the labels and stuff. I never have had much of a problem with them.
Okay. All right. Size. It's a good size. It's fine size.
Yeah, it's fine. I think the all like the stupid features, like the nubbins and the slot for the overlays, they don't make them quite as nice to hold and stack. So I'm going to go down to a 3 from Atari.
All right, and that's not enough to drag me from the 3 I'm already at. So I'm gonna, or that I was at with Atari. So I'm gonna keep it at a 3. Art.
Yeah, ColecoVision art's not great. And it does the thing where it really emphasizes the ColecoVision logo. I do like how they're all black.
Mostly.
Yeah,
but a lot of them are text.
Like
there's a lot more text labels than Atari.
Yeah, they'll just be like the logo. Just say like Space Fury. Yeah, I'm going to go to a 2. There's really a lot of logos. Because the thing with the arcade ports, and every ColecoVision game's an arcade port, they would have like the arcade cabinet on the actual box. And they're just like, yeah, whatever. You're going to go play Ladybug, right? Here it is. And then the cartridge label would just have the Ladybug logo. And it's like, all right, it's the Ladybug logo.
Okay.
But it's not as bad as...
All right, so that's a 3 from you. I'm also a 2 there. That's a 3 overall for you, a 2.8 for me. And that's ColecoVision down. Intellivision, we love these long ass episodes.
Here we are.
We're already like an hour
Intellivision. Guys, we're talking about Intellivision on Collector's Quest. I know.
We did it.
Shout out to you guys who've been waiting for it. They're like, man, I really hope they have a really in-depth episode where they just like go into like way too much nuance for all these cartridges. Also, yeah, Johnny, I agree. Let's speed it up. Yeah, all right, Intellivision. Johnny, shelf appeal of Intellivision, like, if we could go below 1, it would be below 1.
All right. You got a 1, I'm fine with a 1.
If you have never seen an Intellivision cartridge, it's the worst. It is just the worst. So, they're too small. It's smaller than an Atari 2600 cartridge. It's, like, significantly smaller than an Atari 2600 cartridge. But the worst part, the top label is angled. It's at like a 60-degree angle. And the reason they did this is because you jam Intellivision games into the side of the console. So if you were looking at it directly from the side, or if you were looking at it kind of like up because it sticks out a little bit, you'd be able to read the label either way. But rather than just pick a direction, they put it at an angle. And it's just the worst. Why? You don't want... Rectangular prisms are so satisfying. Like, man, you look at a Nintendo cartridge, you're like, oh, I can kind of stack this however I want. And when you have one of those sides as a slope, you can't do whatever you want with it.
So I'm not quite a 1. I'm a 2 on this because if you stack them up and down, they're fine. Like
you stack them, and then the angle part overhangs the label of the other one, and there's like a shadow because they're not. The light can't get to it because they're like at an angle inwards.
Look,
I will fight you so hard. No one has ever put Intellivision cartridges on a shelf and been happy about it, and they never fit anywhere. Like, at least like you can fudge like Atari and ColecoVision games, like they're basically the same size, and then Intellivision games are the size of nothing. There's nothing on your shelf that will fit with them.
It has a top label, you can read it. I'm okay with that.
It's like 50% of a top label because it's at an angle. It almost doesn't count.
I'm okay with it. I'm still at a 2. We can disagree. That's fine. What do you got for quality? Let's talk about the quality, shall we?
I've handled Intellivision cartridges so little in my life. I had my phase where I played them 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know. I never had a problem with them. I don't think the end labels fall off nearly as much as the Atari games, do they?
No, I don't think so. I'm thinking about a couple copies of Night Stalker. Most of them are pretty consistent. That doesn't have like, a lot of them don't have front labels, so you don't have like that feeling like
oh my god, I forgot. Yeah, they don't even have front label. Oh, these are just the worst cartridge. You're putting these even higher on shelf appeal. You don't even have like options on how you can display them.
Look, when we get to art, it's getting a 1 for me, okay? All right. Let me just preview why art score is a 1, but I think fine. Quality, I think I'm just going to give it a 3 because I don't feel strongly one way or another about it. It's fine. All right, size. You hate the size of these things, right? Size and proportions.
They're so annoyingly small. I usually like small things, but because of that angled end label, yeah, I'm going 1. It's just.
But it's small, but not in a pleasing way. It's like small, but also too big because it's kind of like, because it's a rectangle, it doesn't feel right.
We need a psychologist on this show to explain to us why I hate the Intellivision cartridge for being too small, but I think like the Game Boy box is just the perfect box.
But it's not, but it's like, it's not just the size. It's not that it's just like it's like too long, too wide, too deep. It's like all the proportions are just off somehow. Like the proportions just don't pleasingly jam together. The feng shui is poor.
It does have poor feng shui. Also, the pointy edges, because of the way they bevel or angle the cartridge, you don't get a full grip on it when you're wiggling it out of the cartridge. So like an Atari game, it's just like a rectangle, so you get your grip on each end. In this, it's sort of like the end of the cartridge is like a triangle shape. So you only got half as much grip on it, and it like hurts when you're wiggling it out.
Yeah, and they like the lines they put in there don't really provide the grip, and that's not on every cartridge. Yeah, it's inconsistent. Don't like. What do you got? 1?
Oh, yeah, 1. Johnny, hey, guess what? Art, that's also going to be a 1. Everyone take your Intellivisions and throw them out.
All right. So you are at a 1.5. I'm at a 1.8. Our art scores were both 1s. Our size scores were both 1s. It's really, I can't tell you why, but it's very unpleasing to hold these things. I just don't like it. Okay. I mean, I said we can't tell you why, but we spent like 5 minutes telling you why.
Yeah, let's speed it up.
Okay. Atari 5200. Come on, buddy. Tell me why you love it.
All right. I imagine there's probably some people who have never seen an Atari 5200 cartridge listening to this. Atari 5200 cartridges are kind of awesome. They're almost twice as big as an Atari cartridge. They are, if you imagine 2 Atari 2600 cartridges side by side, they're like landscape, and they're so big and thick, and they don't have like these little ridges at the top for you to wiggle them out. The entire sides of the cartridges have those ridges. It makes it feel like a piece of military equipment. It is so chonky and like ridged. And do you feel the same way I feel about these?
Yeah, you feel like you're like not worried about breaking these things. They feel good.
Absolutely not. So the problem with Atari 5200 is that there's so few games and they still have inconsistent cartridge styles. So there's a couple, but the other main style of cartridge, they took off like the ridged ends and they added kind of a sloped end label to it. And the cartridge is just like a lot more smooth. And I hate the redesigned cartridges. But the original cartridges, I think, are so good.
Yeah. And that's the bulk of them. So the bulk is that kind of cartridge.
So the problem with it is that they don't have end labels. So
that is the problem.
You're never going to display or use a cartridge without an end label. So like all of the delightfulness about an Atari 5200 cartridge is kind of lost because of that.
It does also have that little back thing where you can put the overlay.
Yes. It's an overlay. I think, is it an instruction card too? I think there's something besides an overlay that's supposed to go back there. And it's always
is that the instruction card? Yeah, I think it's the instruction card. So, like, if you want to see a game that we were talking about that's like, what is it? Is it Pitfall that's like the weird shape?
Yeah, I think Pitfall is one of the, because that's an Activision game. So there's some weird ones.
And this is like kind of the worst of both worlds because it kind of tries to do the Intellivision thing. And then, like, but also the Atari 50. It's
so the Intellivision thing, meaning having a sloped end label.
Yeah.
Well, who? We don't need sloped end labels, guys. We're putting these on shelves. What are you doing here?
Yeah, this is that version. Just so you guys know, of the 5200, that's a 1 for me. But this one, I like so much about it though, but it doesn't do anything on the shelf because they're just
it I'm gonna give it a 2 just because it's not in television. Like, it's a good size. You can kind of put them where you would put other normal things like jewel cases.
I mean, that's kind of size and proportions, though. But how do you put it on a shelf? It's like a 1 on the shelf, man.
All right, yeah, you convinced me. I don't need a lot of convincing to be told something without an end label is a 1 on a shelf. Sure.
Yeah. So it is art up, pins down, just the way I like it, though.
Yeah. Because Atari 5200 was a normal game console. I feel like we don't talk about how weird it is that Atari 2600 just like has an angled cartridge slot. Like, I realized it was a stylistic choice, and it's a cool stylistic choice. It should get props for that. That's a really cool thing.
It's not something you would do today. You're just Absolutely like, why would you make it harder?
Well, you know what? I would also say you'd never release a console that looks like the PlayStation 5 today, and here we are, and it looks like
that's true. But I mean, I feel like the PlayStation 5 is more Atari inspired than it is Nintendo inspired.
Sure.
All right. Anyways, let's talk about the quality of these cartridges because they're bomb proof.
Yeah, fucking like 5. Like, there's no end label to fall off, so you get all the benefits of a giant chunky Atari cartridge without the main weakness.
The screws in the back.
The screws in the back. You can actually open these. Man, these cartridges rule.
Just like, we don't give a lot of praise to the 5200, but I mean, come on, this is like pretty good.
Yeah.
And when you split, because there's no top label, you can just fucking open it. And even the stupid Pitfall one, you can still open that one. Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty good. Size. Really good size. I like them.
It is a really good size. Man, I wish they were all consistent. I might go 5 for size. I do. I love a 5200 cartridge. That is what it's one of those things. Like, you hold it in your hand, like, this is the delightful size. I'm getting dopamine just because of how this thing is designed.
Yep. And let's go to art. I'm gonna just go ahead and jump out and say I'm a 4 on the art, just like the Atari. I think it does most of the art right. Labels are consistent, look good. For the most part. Like,
no, they got like huge silver borders, and most of
like, you could. Atari games have giant colored borders and then put the little image in the center a lot of times.
I don't think you can give it props for having all of Atari's great art, because a lot of great Atari art wasn't on 5200. It's a lot of arcade ports, as I always complain about, and those weren't always the games that had like incredible art. It's okay. So I'm giving it a 3.
You're giving it a 3? I think it's fine. I think it's like in the same realm, and I like that everything is consistent and that the label is directed in a pleasing fashion. You are at a 3.5. I am at a 3.8. But what we can both say about the 5200 is surprisingly good, actually.
Dude, if 5200 had end labels, it would be like, it still might be a contender for best cartridge. People would collect these if they had end labels. Because they don't, they're just like, fuck this. What am I gonna do with this?
Here's how I would improve this cart. I agree with you that the silver border is overdone. The Atari logo is too big and the title of the game is too small. I would switch those font sizes and reduce it a little bit. Get rid of some of that border, increase the art, and then this thing would just be a champion.
Yeah. If you guys ever see Atari 5200 games in the game store, always pick them out, because they do have that slot in the back where you put the overlays. So if you see one with overlays, like, it's probably worth picking up, because these games are going to be like $5. I always check whenever I see 5200 games if I could find one with like the little. I thought there's an exclusive instruction insert on the back of the cartridge. Am I crazy about that? I feel if we're ever going to bring it up in an episode, this is the episode.
You're going to have to look, because I'm not sure if it's overlays or just that instruction sheet that goes in there.
So is it just an instruction sheet? Is it not the overlays that goes in the back?
I think so.
Okay. Well, either way, you got to take those 5200 games off the shelf, and anyone that has that little instruction sheet in the back, you got to buy it, because obviously those are always missing.
Yep.
All right.
But hey, good news. You can buy a lot of these games sealed. So
yeah. Yeah. Was that an After Dark where I tried to go buy all of the Atari 5200 exclusives, and there were like 2 of them, and both of them were really expensive, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe this was a bad idea.
But hey, Pitfall 2 has the bonus stage, so do some bonus pitfalling. Let's go on to one we like a little less, shall we? The Atari 7800. How do you feel about that one?
You know what? Obviously I like it less than 5200 because 5200 is just so cool. I don't think Atari 7800 is that bad. It's basically just the good version of Atari 2600. Like, 'cause it doesn't have like all the third party stuff because there's no Atari 7800 games. I mean, there are a few third party ones actually, but
my problem with them comes down to things that are outside. It's basically it's an Atari cart, right? So like I don't have a problem with the cartridge. It's fine. It's fine. The art is down. The end label is back. Art down, label up. But I think it's more consistent because there's fewer games. Yeah, it's fine.
Shelf appeal.
But for the shelf appeal, here's my problem. So the cartridge doing all the work, being just fine. The label is so ugly. The end label is disgusting.
It's horrible. I don't know what happened, but like, not only is there no art, but like they chose the most boring font for all of these games, and you would think it looks cool because it's silver, but it just doesn't. It just no. It looks like a bunch. Work. You would like you could mistake it for productivity software if you were going through just like random boxes of computer junk.
Yeah, it smacks of like shitty computer software. And like sometimes they like tried to like spruce it up and not make the text black, but most of the text is black. They're like, this one's red. Hey, winter games became exciting, right? And you're like, no. And then like later games, they like, and some different non-Atari published ones like had
even
kind of
those
different
are boring though. Like the third party ones, those are all just logos too, or just text, not even logos.
Well, and those ones are worse because those wrap around. Those got wraparound labels like Double Dragon and Rampage.
All right, I'm going to 2. I don't hate that. It is consistent, and they are, I guess, silver. But yeah, they just did
that
nothing
label
with it.
is so. I agree with you. That label is so ugly and boring, dude. How did they do?
The thing with Atari 2600, again, going back, is like you can organize it by color, and then that looks really cool because you got the rainbow of Atari cartridges going on, and you just can't do that anymore. I don't know what they were thinking.
When you look at this, you wouldn't know what you're looking at. It all looks the same. Your eyes bleed, and it just becomes one image. I hate it.
They thought they were doing something. They thought that they were fancy because they had the Atari 2600, and it's all wood grain. And then, like, the 2600 Junior and the 5200, they have, like, these silver aluminum accents on them. And they were like, yeah, let's just keep being, like, this high-class fancy thing and make all of our game cartridges silver. And they didn't want to be too loud because it's like, oh, those are toys. Those are for kids. Let's just be fancy. Let's take inspiration from Microsoft and IBM software.
Yeah,
but it didn't
they
work.
were like they were definitely trying to be like, we're not that shitty kid stuff. We're adults, and look at how
that
how modern
was their
this
plan,
is.
and then they went up against the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah. This is definitely everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face moment. It's horrible too. Quality of these cartridges.
I don't have the end labels fall off these as much as I do on 2600. So I'm tempted to bump it up from a 3 to a 4.
That's true. Are the screws still in the front though on these? I can't remember.
We're gonna dock it for the screws. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're the exact same thing as the 2600.
I'm going at 3. You want a 4?
Yeah, put me at a 4.
I'm at a 3 for that. Okay. Size is fine.
Yeah, whatever I gave Atari 2600, just put the same thing. What did I put?
You gave it a 4.
Yeah.
And I gave it a 3.
Stop. Stop. I don't want to give high scores to Atari 7800. I mean, it's all right.
I gave it a 3. You gave it a 4. Art.
On the cartridge. Okay, so here's the thing. So not only are the end labels abysmal, it does the Castlevania Dawn of Shadow. What is Dawn of Sorrow?
Dawn of Sorrow.
So the budget version of that, it just shows the box art, and it's really funny. It's like Konami the best, and it shows the box art of the non-budget version on it. And all of these game cartridges, they show the box art of the actual box. And it's like in like a little silver border. Am I crazy? That's what it's showing me on most of these.
Yeah, most of them. Also, not all of them are color. Some are black and white. Some, like Pole Position 2, don't even have art. It's not good.
They thought they were being... They really leaned into this silver thing, and they thought they were being fancy.
Yeah. Nope. I dislike it. Like the art itself isn't bad, but yeah, It's a 2 for me because it's just the general motif of the whole game and the silver end labels. The reason it doesn't have shelf appeal is the same reason that the art isn't working for me. The font, everything considered there, it's a 2 for me.
Yeah, I'll go 2 as well. The thing is, because they just scaled down the boxes, like sometimes the title of the game ends up being too small because it was like kind of like medium sized on the box, and then you put it in a cartridge, it's like you can barely read it.
Yeah. This is not good. There was no real consistency. It would have been nice if they just printed the title on the game. And they did the thing where that's like they really want you to know it's an Atari 7800. Yep. But they made Atari really small and they made 7800 really big in bold font. And then they like
maybe it was just to like let kids know because it's the same size as 2600. You could probably put it in an Atari 2600, but it wouldn't do anything. So you need to let the kids know, hey idiot, you got to go buy the new one.
Yeah. Just like this.
Hey, Johnny, do you think that Atari 7800 could have competed with NES and just wasn't given a chance, and that people just don't understand the true power of Atari 7800?
Nope. Hey, they both had winter games. That's cool. And Xenophobia. Your score was a 3. Mine was a 2.5. Let's talk about video game daddy Nintendo, shall we?
Okay, yeah. So Collector's Quest podcast, known for not overrating the NES in literally every aspect. So here we go. Let's talk about Nintendo cartridges, Johnny.
I've never seen one before. Please give me a word picture.
The default video game cartridge that you probably think of. Because, man, it's delightful. Man, we all got into this hobby because we wanted to go to flea markets and find some Nintendo cartridges. And I don't care if that's not why you got into this hobby, Johnny. They're great. Shelf appeal, 5.
It is. When I think of a stack of games on a shelf, when they're not in a box, I think of Nintendo games and how they look, and all of my nostalgia is there. And I'm sorry if you're all mad about it, and I'm not like dinging it for not being a perfect square and having the thing you can pull out. Shelf appeal, and the other thing I like is if you have the desk cover, that like looks pretty good. You can, like it a lot. 5. It's
got the little indent so you could pull it out of the shelf without like having to like wiggle your hand all weird like you would like because the Atari games are perfectly square right up next to each other, and they thought about that and they're like, oh, we're gonna give you a little thing to hold. It was so considerate. And like the top label only goes over half the cartridge, which you would think would be shitty, but I don't know, it just kind of like breaks it up and makes it still looks good with that, and it lets you take apart the cartridge.
Yeah. Also, the label is slightly inlaid. It's a slight inlay. Not a lot, so it doesn't look like weird, but it's enough that means when you set them on top of each other, you're not damaging them. Also, they all came with dust sleeves, and you just like had a ton of dust sleeves, and you could put one over them, and that doesn't ruin the shelf appeal. Pretty good. Like it a lot.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with this being a 5.
I mean, there's definitely people who are going to disagree, but...
you Sega people...
Quality. What is the quality? It's a 5 for me.
All right. I mean, all right. You could get on our case and be like, "Oh, but the so and so publisher, have you seen your copies of King of the Ring or like whatever like shitty game?" I'm just gonna go 5 in general for the quality.
Size.
All right, we're gonna speed this up. Yeah, it's 5. It's the most delightful cartridge size. You know, I might like... No, I mean, all right, Atari 5200 might be a little bit too big if there were like 700 of them. And yeah, it's the delightful size, but it's also small enough that you can collect 700 of them if you really want to.
Yeah. You can turn them on side. You can put them up and down. You can kind of do whatever you want, and they kind of work out. And they fit on most media shelves. I find like maybe it's a little big. Might be a little big. Is that enough for me to ding it?
I like them. You're just a Super Nintendo guy. You just like the Super Nintendo, Johnny.
No, I think the Super Nintendo cartridge, we'll get there, but I think those are a little too small.
Let me try to convince you. So NES does have stupid variants, the third-party ones. So the first-party ones are great because they're all the same. I mean, they're not because there's 5-screw versus 3-screw. But The third-party ones, Tengen, the only one that you think matters, they actually fit right alongside all the regular Nintendo games, and they don't like completely fuck everything up. Whereas like with Atari games, like the cartridges are literally like a completely different size, like they got different things protruding out of them, so they don't always work nicely on a shelf together. But your Tengen games can go right next to your regular games.
It's true. I'm okay. I'm out of 5. You got
right.
me. You got
and
me
we're
on
just
5.
gonna pretend that like Color Dreams doesn't exist with that stupid nub they have that completely fucks up everything about NES games.
Yeah. It's like I feel like
we
like,
can't let Color Dreams ruin this, Johnny. We gotta give Nintendo the perfect score.
It's not though, because the art is not the best.
Oh no! Why? Is it because of Shingen the Ruler?
No, that's actually got good art. Like Mario jumping face first into a block. Like Super Mario Bros.
That's
Think
awesome.
about what that looks like.
What are you talking about?
I mean,
you're
it's
telling me the black box games don't have good art? They painstakingly put those together by hand with Post-its.
Post-it note, which is amazing. It's an amazing story. Not like the art isn't terrible, but it's also not great. I think I have to default to I gave it a 3 on the box episode. Where am I dinging it? Is that too harsh? Is a 3 too harsh?
I don't know.
What are you giving it?
What did I give the boxes?
You gave it a 3 as well.
I mean, it usually is the box art. So, all right, I'll keep it at a 3 then. The cartridge, it looks cool, Johnny. It's got those ridges on the side. The label is really small compared to almost any other video game cartridge.
But the borders aren't usually too big. You get some exceptions, like the border bone ones will get a little bit stupid, but some of the Capcom ones, but then they have like something going on. They've got like their border looks interesting.
Oh no, I meant the actual like physical size of the label compared to the cartridge. It only takes up like a third the space that it could.
Yeah. But the other space is used like by the ridges, which is like it adds to the aesthetic appeal of the cart. Like
it definitely does, yeah.
Like we're calling this art, and we could have renamed this aesthetic appeal.
If we're doing that, then I'm bumping it up to a 4. Sorry.
Is that I mean, because we have commented a lot about the shape of the cartridge and how it generally looks, but is that part of the shelf? How does it look on the shelf?
Put it at a 3 then. What are we doing? We're arguing over 3s and 4s on the
all right,
console's going to win.
Okay, let's talk about the Famicom. We're both at a 4.5.
All right.
It's great. Like, even look, we're being fiddly, but it's like almost the perfect cartridge. And a lot of that I understand is my nostalgia speaking, but it's pretty great.
I mean, it's at the point in history where it should be the perfect cartridge, because like we had gone through the growing pains of Fairchild through Atari, like having like some problems, and then they needed to get inspired by VHS tapes. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't the point in history. Maybe they just got lucky with a good design, because their Japanese design, Famicom,
terrible,
kind of sucks.
Terrible. It's kind of like, imagine if Super Nintendo cartridges were worse.
They're just too light, I think, is the main problem. Like, they feel so insubstantial, and most of them don't have end labels, and it's just like, what am I going to do with these? But, counterpoint, super colorful. Don't look awful on a shelf. If you literally forget about the end labels, just put them pins down and just make a rainbow. And I think that gives you some shelf appeal, because you definitely have enough cartridges to make a rainbow. You're like, yes, a lot of them are like yellow, but you probably have enough to make a rainbow.
I'll put it to a 2.
I'm going all the way to a 3.
You're going to a 3 for this?
I love a rainbow. You make a TurboGrafx rainbow, you make an Atari rainbow, you make a Famicom rainbow. I love a rainbow on a shelf.
That's your X factor. I got it. I do agree that it looks better than some of these other ones. Like, as much as I like the 5200 cart, and I think it's like beautiful, like design and everything there, with the lack of end label, but it's all just black too, so it is a little boring. But these stand out. They do stand out, and they have some appeal there, and I can understand why people would enjoy it. Quality. Okay, this falls down for me on quality.
Like 1,
which is weird because
it's just the worst. So here's the main problem. You can't open them, and you know, like kind of like who fucking cares if you can open an Atari game? So many of them are worthless, and who's bootlegging them. But all of the most collectible, exciting Atari games, you were like risking some amount of physically breaking the cartridge because there's no way to open them without physically bending the plastic in like a clamp. It's insane. They were meant to be closed one time. So it's two pieces of plastic that were meant to be closed one time and never opened again, which is just the most frustrating thing.
Thin, they break just like one. How do we feel about the size?
Oh, we're just going one. I'm thinking like, is there anything? I mean, yeah, like fuck Famicom games. Size, they're all right.
They're like both too big and too small.
I don't know. They don't have the delightfulness of an Atari game for me, and it could be because it's like landscape instead of portrait.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
3. I don't hate it.
3.
I don't know, 2, because like I like SNES a lot more. Yeah, I'm gonna go 2, because SNES has the same thing but is bigger and more substantial, so it just feels better.
Yeah. Art. It's a mixed bag with the art on these games. Like I think if you look at the Mario games all together, like if you look at Mario 3, Mario USA, and Super Mario Brothers, you get a glimpse into what is going on in the art world of Super Famicom, like as far as label construction. Like sometimes it's a little bit of the art and like too much label, then it's like way too much label, and then it's like, oh, a bunch of art. Like it's just all over the place.
Yeah, it's hard to say because there's a lot of styles and a lot of Famicom games. And whatever I give the boxes, what do I give it, like a 3?
I will tell you on Famicom boxes,
I mean, I don't think it's exciting enough for me to give it a 4.
You went 2 there.
2?
Yeah.
I'm too harsh. Bump it up to a 3.
I'm going to stick
whatever.
at a 2.
We can't let our past mistakes define us.
Okay. I'm going to stick at a 2. Oh, man. That feels bad. Like, some of the art is, like, just terrible, though.
All right, put me down to a 2. I'm looking at some like so like the ones where I'm like, hell yeah, it's like you're like you said, like Mario 1, 2, 3, Zelda, and then like a bunch of the other ones are like, you know, random games like, oh, just some anime people. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot also on the quality, that back label on these peels far more often than on like a Nintendo cartridge.
You have just way more problems with stickers peeling. Maybe this is a California problem.
It might be. Like it does get hot here, so like if it sweats at all, like that adhesive comes off. Let's talk about a system we can both agree to hate on, and that is the Sega Master System. How do you feel about a Master System cartridge? So, is there a more boring looking cartridge?
It is very much from the school of design of IBM PC productivity software. Like, what were they thinking? But
worse, like, I don't understand why they wrapped the end label around the top and then didn't put the title on there. Also, it's an incredibly...
I never even noticed that. So there's no top end label. They have the label, but it's only on the front. It's got like the smallest label. If you've never seen a Master System cartridge, imagine like Famicom, but the label on the front of the cartridge is a centimeter at the top, and it's only white text on a red background. No art whatsoever.
It's like an ugly red too. It just, man, they've found ways to get this wrong.
I didn't even think of the fact that it doesn't really have an end label. So I'm going to go down, I guess, from a 2 to a 1 on this.
Yeah, this is a shelf appeal. This has no appeal. Also, the white font is not, and like
the entire Master System font ecosystem is just the worst. It's just like the default font they had going on.
I just don't understand. Like they change it later, right? They go to the blue later, but like that's what was on the front of the carts was like kind of that blue and white. Why were these things brick red?
I don't know. I mean, Genesis had the red thing going on too. I guess Sega liked red, even though their logo was blue. Is that why they changed some of the cartridges to blue? Was it because the Sega logo was blue and someone was like, why are our cartridges red? Have you guys heard of branding?
I don't know. Aren't there some of the PAL ones are like white cartridges? Like white cartridges would have been way more exciting. Would have done something for
White
this.
cartridges are more exciting than red cartridges. I feel like science would not back you up on that one.
This is not. They're not white cartridges. They're black cartridges with red brick labels.
Yeah. But the white cartridges you're talking about would just be plain boring white labels instead of plain boring red labels.
But they were no. The cartridge itself was white, and then the label was blue on it.
Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. Then I don't know enough about Master System.
Yeah. So yeah, and the blue ones look a lot better, but yeah, most of these are these brick reds. Anyways, we've spent a lot of time trying to tell you, like, we're not just. I feel like people are just gonna be like, guys, just hate Sega, but like, really, these things are atrocious looking. This is from a guy who's got a full set of them. No one is defending
Sega Master System cartridges in how they look. So
here's a thing that people did because the Sega label is so stupid. They made custom end labels for this thing. So on the other half of the cartridge, where there is no end label on the top, they put a little end label. Like, so it could have been done. Also, there was enough room just to put the text on top. Also, why wrap this label around at all? It's so stupid.
Johnny, I understand the idea of Sega Master System end labels. Who has enough loose Master System games where that's a problem? The hard part to find in a Master System game is the manual. Like, Master System game boxes are cheap. No one wants Master System games. You could go get your action fighter. Like, unless you're talking like Golden Axe Warrior or something. You don't need... Just go get the box. How expensive could the box be for whatever games you're putting end labels on?
I don't know.
What's quality? Anyways. Is it just average? Is it like a 3? Is it a 4? Is it tiny? No, it's definitely not a 4.
No.
I have broken both a Sega Master System console and the light gun because the plastic is so shitty compared to, say, like the Zapper, which is like indestructible. I might go 2. This is the only... I haven't broken a Sega Master System cartridge, but I know the Sega Master System itself uses shitty plastic. I'm going 2. I need to dock it points for my negative experience with like physically breaking these objects.
2. Yeah. I mean, I hate the way that end label wraps around. That's just like a quality issue. You're just creating a defect where there never needed to be one. I'm going to keep it as a 3, but I'm skeptical. Let's talk about the size.
Okay, Johnny, why do I like Master System games when I don't like Famicom games when they're the same size?
You like Master System games?
I like them a little bit, and I think it's because they're more perfectly rectangular than almost anything.
No, because the end juts out at the back because they made it like a little handle, and then like it bulges. This cart is stupid.
Do they not line up on a shelf? Like I've never put Master. Oh, okay. So is it not perfectly rectangular on the back?
No, it's not. It's horrible.
Horrible?
Horrible.
I'm going 3.
I'm going 2. This is terrible.
It's better than Famicom, and it's Famicom has too many like, oh, we're gonna cut off the corners and be all angled and cute.
But like, there's too many angles going on this cartridge, especially at the back.
I like it better than Genesis. It's like an angular Sega Genesis cartridge. Yeah, it's got like a little divot in the back.
Yeah, but that means they can't stack. Why would you stack them?
Because you're not.
But we're talking about
shelf appeal.
No, just like.
All right.
Let's talk about the art, shall we?
Is this the first console that literally has no art whatsoever?
They were just like, fuck it.
I mean, when you look at the Master System boxes, you might get the idea that this is a company run by a bunch of engineers who don't know anything about art, and they refuse to hire a marketing guy. All right. Yeah, it's obviously a 1. There's literally no art.
All right. Well, let's move on to a better console, but maybe a worse cartridge, if that's possible. We're at 1.8s. Both of us wound up at a 1.8 for this.
That's the same as in television for you.
Yeah. It's a terrible cartridge. Like, these are both bottom feeders. These are F tier cartridges for sure. Let's talk about the Genesis cart. How do you feel about it?
I don't like
shelf appeal.
I just don't like Genesis cartridges. I think it comes down to the same thing where they feel too light. But also I don't like the kind of roundedness of them. I don't know why the roundedness makes it feel cheap to me. Like something about big manly corners, like friggin' Atari 5200. It's here to fuck you up. And Genesis, as much as Genesis has like we're the hardcore version of Nintendo, how come your cartridges don't have sharp corners then? What is this for
soft
babies?
Slopes.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here with your soft slopes, your femininely curves, Genesis. These look like they were designed for ladies' hands, not men like us.
Ridiculous. And they just feel too light, I think, which...
Also, like, they do have an end label, but here's how the end label does the thing where the text is like meant so if you read it in the cartridge, but that means if you laid it down, the only way you could read the end label, the titles would be upside down. So if you tried to stack it, you would have to lay it on its label.
No one has ever read a Genesis end label, Johnny. It's just too small.
People have, and people do. And it's terrible. I hate that. Also, like, sometimes the end label like curls up and around the top and they like just continue the label.
Also, the logical way to stack cartridges on a shelf, Johnny, would be sideways, like, DVDs or books or anything. And this has like the small end on its side. So it just like, I don't hate they're still, I'm giving it a 2 because like they still do have end labels. They are colorful. They're very recognizable because they're mostly red. But I mean, it's obviously not good.
Yeah. No, I'm comfortable with the 2 as well for shelf appeal. At least, like, these cartridges are just black, right? Like, there is some consistency there. Except, shall we introduce this? And I still think I'm okay at it 2. But every third party, like all the different carts that you get from EA, really trash the consistency of this. At least you can put them all together for the most part, but those came in like different sizes. It's just like, man.
So I'll defend this and I'll say I think it's mostly EA, and then there's the the Accolade games that are different as well. So I guess there's a bunch of third-party games that are a little bit different, but they all make like their own little sets. I don't think it's that big of a problem, but I'll defend all the inconsistencies by saying like Sega did not expect you to throw out the packaging. Nintendo, like cardboard boxes, like whatever, people are going to throw that out. But like they gave you a box to put it in, so they kind of didn't really have to think about this.
I want to talk about something though. I want to trash EA just a little bit harder. Eventually, a lot of them went down to like just the regular cartridge. So they tried to do the Nintendo thing where they put like the little grippy slot. Like they're like, oh, we'll put the little indent, but they made it yellow and they stuck it on the side. Why?
Is that what it was?
What are you
for?
grabbing that for?
I used to think that was like an extra chip that made the game better. Like not like physically, but like I thought that was like something special in the cartridge. That's just a grip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just a plastic piece
for that. Also, Genesis cartridges, they have like the daintiest little rounded grip on the back that you're supposed to use to pull it up, but it's so insubstantial that no one has ever pulled up a Sega Genesis cartridge using the grip on the back of the cartridge.
And it's like, especially for young hands, it's a little too wide to just like get one good hand on it and pull it out. It's not. Anyways, I dislike it. Let's talk about the quality. Because of like the weird inconsistencies, the labels on Genesis are really a tragedy. I think the cartridge themselves, the plastic, usually fine. I don't see them broken too often or anything. Pretty hardy, a lot of them.
They get scuffed up, but it might just be this more visible because they're like matte black.
Black, yeah. But I think they mostly survive. I think I'm like at a 3 with this, even with the label.
Of all the cartridges, this is the one you go 3 on. This is the only console where I'm like, yeah, this has some pretty serious label peeling issues. because it's the thing where like not enough adhesive is holding the top label on, so it's just like the end labels just peel up.
I mean, that's probably why it's not a 5, right? Because the rest, like I'm docking it 1 for consistency and 1 for its label. It's a full point off.
No, it's a 2. And then the other point is because the freaking plastic is not heavy and high quality and doesn't make me feel good. Nintendo's like, we're gonna spend a lot of money on plastic so these kids feel good.
Okay. I mean, screws are in the back, so that's nice.
That is
like,
nice.
And you can open them without destroying the labels. Like there are things about the design of these I like. Even some of the EA ones. I do agree that the regular plastic ones feel a little insubstantial, but yeah, I'm fine with 3 here.
All right.
Size.
They're too small. They're too small to be delightful.
They're too small, but also too big. There's another one like
nothing about them is too big. I don't know. I mean, unless you're telling me like handheld stuff.
No, like if I'm trying to think of like a little kid pulling the card out, it's like a little bit too big, like to one hand. But they're small. They're not very substantial, like you said. They definitely don't feel as good as like a Super Nintendo game, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going 2. It's not. I mean, like I'm looking at our 1, and it's like in television, like nothing's in television, but.
No, this is better than a 1. It's better than a 1, but not better than a 3. So 2 is right where it should be. Let's talk about the art. How do you feel about art on these?
Johnny, when was the
I feel
last
like
time
I'm just
I
going
looked
to
at,
default to
Sega
whatever
Genesis
I said.
cartridges. I have to like look at some for reference. It looks like it's mostly cut down versions of the front of the box. So that's weird because all the boxes are just designed to be portrait, and then they just cut it in half to make it landscape for the cartridge. I don't know. Yeah. It's not terrible.
Some of it's fine. I'm at like
it ends
3.
up actually being a little bit small sometimes because they don't resize the logo. A lot of times they're just like chopping up stuff and putting it on the front. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're
going to a 2 or are you sticking at 3?
No, I'm going to a 2. Fuck the Genesis art.
All right.
I want to see you make unique art for your cartridges, not just this bullshit where you stick the box art on it. Nah, put it at a 3. It's fine.
3. Okay.
All right.
I was like, you almost talked me into a 3 because you are right. They do just scale these weird, and sometimes like it's really noticeable on Sonic 2 and Sonic 1, which are going to be like your premier games.
No, but put it down to it, man. Because I'm thinking like NES, and like every NES game has they at least formatted the same things to fit the cartridge in a way that looks nice, and it could just be because the cartridge label similar dimensions to the box. But like you. I don't know. These have to be like chopped up and moved around. What else do we have as a 3? Atari 5200? If Atari 5200 is a 3, I'll keep Genesis at a 3, Johnny.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the next one. First, let's talk about our scores. I'm always trying to move past our scores. You have a 2.3 and I've got a 2.5. Not an atrocious score, but not a good score.
Yep.
All right. 32X. Keeping it in the Sega family right now. How are you feeling about 32X cartridges, Tyler?
Johnny, I would have skipped this entirely, but it is so notable that Sega had a decent cartridge design and clamshell cases, and they switched to mostly cardboard boxes and then removed the end label? What?
It's very stupid. Also, most of the art came off the cartridge. Like, it's a lot of text. Not a lot of them, but like Knuckles Chaotic and like Brutal.
I don't know. I'm looking at some cartridges. It's just the box art again. Like they didn't put any effort into these because
no, some of it's not even the box art. Some of it's just the font, the title font.
I mean,
and like a lot of times the title is like too big when the art is there.
No, you see this Knuckles Chaotix thing. So Knuckles Chaotix has Knuckles on the cover, and then the cartridge just has the logo. But I'm fine with that because the cartridge is so small, it only has room for the logo.
Okay, but if they had made art, just saying, like Doom managed to do it.
Did it? I don't know what I'm looking for a Doom cartridge. Nope, I found a sealed one.
You're probably right. Like right, Space Harrier, I don't know how they would get Space Harrier art on there. Well, let's talk about its shelf appeal though, because its shelf appeal to me, like I don't like they added like unnecessarily swoops in there. They chose some like weird art designs on the cartridge itself. Just unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't think they made it better. They were trying to like be cool, and it's like a car design that didn't work out. This is like kind of the Pontiac Aztec of cartridges. Like they thought they were being like, we got to change it up to be like, I don't know, more technical. Let's add some like weird lines, and the lines don't work.
No, so like if you look at where the label is, doesn't it feel like they were originally going to go with a wraparound label up on the top?
Yes.
And then they were like, oh shit, that's not going to work. Let's just cut an inlay into that and then put the label inside.
So this is really funny. Like something went wrong at some point, which is not hard to believe when you hear the stories of the Sega 32X. But the top of the cartridge label has like tiny little rounded corners, and the bottom has really deep, big rounded corners that make you think like what game cartridge in the world has different sized corners? Like something went wrong where they had to like cut the top short or something.
Yeah, this thing is an abomination.
It's so bad.
This has no shelf appeal to me.
Obviously,
at all.
Appeal. Yeah. It's the worst. I mean, it has no end label. It's just it's kind of like it has no end label, and it's something I collected in like middle school, high school. So I had these without end labels, and they were like the most frustrating thing. It was these and like some random Famicom games.
Yeah. So, yeah, the shelf appeal is a 1 for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's talk about the quality.
I never see any labels peeling on these because they don't have end labels, and I don't think anyone played them, so I never see them in bad condition.
Yeah, they're always in fine condition. The screws on the back, you can open them.
I don't know. It's like I have literally no complaints here.
I just feel like the quality of the idea is so bad.
I mean, I want to dock it, but if we're gonna give it points in a category, this would be the category it gets points in.
Okay, what are we 4?
I'm going 4, yeah.
Is it 4? Is it a 5? Like, I just... I don't know. I'm still giving it a 4 because of the unnecessary swoops.
It's not Nintendo, so it can't get a 5. We gotta show our bias here.
I feel like... I don't... Guys, come at me as a hater. I'm gonna tell you, I can't find, like, something technically wrong, but it feels wrong. It feels wrong. So there's something there, and I'm not identifying it, but there's something wrong with it. Size.
It's the same as like, Genesis. It's a 2 for me. I mean, I know you want to dock it for being weird, but you're not going to put this down to a 1.
It's a 2 is fine. It's not enough to be wrong, but it is. The design of this cartridge is very stupid. It's very stupid.
All right.
The art.
I'm putting the art down to a 2 because there's literally no 32X games. Like, Genesis has games that will warrant it being a 3, but like, oh man, the Virtual Fighter 32X box art, it's showcased so well.
Yeah.
Like, it's whatever.
No, it's not good. I'm cool with a 2. So that gives us, we're both at a 2.3 here. I know people want us to fight more, but
that quality is doing work on 32X.
That is doing a lot of heavy lifting. That basically makes it a better cartridge than the Famicom cart, which feels wrong.
I mean, fuck Famicom cart. Should have used better plastic or something. And I know there's like different style Famicom cartridges that do have some better plastic. Whatever. Johnny, this is going to be a long episode. I have some exciting news. We're moving on to another Nintendo console, so we can start giving out the 5s again.
Oh, okay, cool. Are we giving out some 5s?
I don't know.
Let's talk about the Super Nintendo card.
Let's be specific. We're talking about US Super Nintendo, because you PAL guys got the weird roundy ones, which will basically loop in with Super Famicom.
Yeah, basically a Super Famicom cartridge in Europe is, or PAL territories, is a Super Famicom cartridge. We are talking about the US version of this.
Johnny, Nintendo did it again. They made a completely different sized cartridge, but it's still like the perfect size and it feels so good. Oh man, I love Super Nintendo cartridge.
It feels really good. I will say that the shelf appeal, like you can clearly identify with it. It's not just like black on a black shelf, so it sticks out a little. The titles on the end labels are a little small for me.
They're way too small. Yeah, so NES has the right amount like of breakup. This has too much plastic.
Yeah, so that puts me at lower than a Nintendo, but it's still a 4.
Am I giving it a 4?
Are you going to go 3?
Am I getting
Shelf appeal?
biased? I feel like I'm being biased towards the Super Nintendo if I give it a 4. What
Okay.
else is... But like Famicom's out of 3. Jesus. Am I going all the way... I can't equate those. ColecoVision's out of 4? All right, let's just go 4. Yeah, fuck. It's Super Nintendo. Everyone loves seeing Super Nintendo stuff.
All right. Quality. I mean, aside from like a few of the Majesco ones and the
Yeah,
Mexico
we can't count
factory,
like weird exceptions like that.
but I mean, there's a lot of Mexico factory ones. It's pretty good. The quality on these things is like pretty rock solid. You're hard pressed to find a better one. I will say that we don't have some of those weird exceptions really, like for first party stuff with Nintendo that will sometimes crop up on the Super Nintendo. But these are hardy cartridges. They feel good. They're easy to pull out. They've just got some good design on them. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of down with it. I mean, they got the screws. You can actually open them up. I guess that's not really an issue anymore, but then I realized like we get back into handhelds and it starts becoming an issue again.
Yep. Yeah.
It does have like end label wear more than any other console, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. It's probably just because people actually played their Super Nintendo games all the time rather than like some of these other consoles.
I think I'm at a 4 for quality. Like I don't know if the end label wear is sometimes enough to like dock it, and also like just the Majesco stuff that happens and the Mexico factory stuff. Like, is that a prevalent enough issue? And you will see it on like big games too. Like you'll see it on like your Castlevania. Like you'll get a shitty label Castlevania, and you get like your Super Copas. Like I don't want to hold Super Copa in like International Super Soccer because those ones never look good. You can never find a good one of those.
I don't know if it's worth,
but most stuff you can find pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth docking it to a 3, but there is problems with the plastic. Sometimes you get a cartridge and it has 2 different colors of plastic.
That's true.
And like the SNES plastic just yellows. Like if you just go on eBay and bring up a lot, like you'll see like, oh, some of these are like left in the sun. These are like the shitty plastic ones.
Yeah.
And like, why are there so many of them two-toned?
Yeah. I don't know. It did come with that little dust thing though, which I like, which helps them stand up and stuff. I don't know. Protects chip. I'm out of 4.
I'll just go with
I'm comfortable.
We got to move this episode on.
Yeah.
It's Nintendo. Size. I could just give it a higher score.
Size. It's a good size. I like it.
It's a good size. I don't know if I like it as much as NES. It's the line, like the fact that it has like, I don't know, it's not like a consistent shape across the front of it is a little bit weird. Like the 2 little lines that are like ridges on the front, those are a little bit weird.
Yeah, it also, there's not like a clear, it's not as easy as some other consoles to grab it and pull it out. But yeah, it does grip pretty well. But also a lot of times that means you have to grip like right on the label, which is maybe why some of the label wear happens.
Probably. Kids in their stupid hands.
I like the size a lot, but it's not perfect. So I'm going to go a 4.
Yeah, I'm going a 4 too.
Okay, art. I have some problems with the art. Like Nintendo does a thing where they adjust the box art to be on here and they like do a pretty good job, but they also like bring in elements of the box that I think are stupid onto the label, which are unnecessary. Like the button logo.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's all the labels are loaded with the stupid black border Super Nintendo bullshit. But even more egregious, they designed the cartridge so that you could see the entire label when it was sticking out of the console, because it looks better when it's in the console. And they didn't have to do that on NES because they're just like, oh, just shove that whole thing in there. So NES, I feel like their stylistic decision to not have the label take up the entire cartridge, probably a cost-cutting decision, to be honest. But I feel like that still looks good, and it just looks like the label is a little too small on the front.
Yeah, I think if they eschewed that, like if they got rid of that border and just like made that all art, I think it would look really good.
Yeah, like they did on Super Famicom games.
Yeah. So yeah, this it doesn't drop all the way to a 2 for me, but it does sit at a 3.
All right, I'll go to a 3 also.
Which it almost got a 4, but it's a 3.8. Still a very highly rated cartridge. and something we like it a lot. Well, let's talk about that Super Famicom cart, shall we? How do we feel about that?
Man, I hate Super Famicom cartridges, Johnny. They are terrible. So there's something about a rectangular prism, and nothing about a Super Famicom cartridge is a rectangular prism. Is this what you guys have in Europe too? Or they're the same cartridge shell between Europe and Super Famicom?
Yeah, it like weirdly bulges, and it's got like the ridges on the side, but it doesn't work as well for some reason.
You
How did
sold
they mess
these
this up?
in cardboard boxes. For what reason would you possibly make it slightly rounded so they don't fit on a shelf nicely? What were you thinking?
I hate this. That means you can't stack them up and down, and they took off the end labels.
They have no end labels. If you see a box of Super Famicom games, Super Famicom cartridges at a convention, you're never looking through them because one, you don't read Japanese, so you don't know what half the games are, but two, you can't read what they are. You're not going to look at each individual stupid cartridge, and they don't even fit nicely in the box they're sitting in because they're rounded. Oh, just all around worse.
It's a tragedy.
Nintendo. It's
a tragedy. This
one on shelf appeal. I have a bunch of loose Super Famicom cartridges that just never got rid of, but man, I hate them. They're just the worst.
Yeah, this is definitely a thing you have to see them from the front. But yeah, one on shelf appeal, which makes me sad. Let's talk about the quality. This rounding thing really hurts it for me.
I mean, it is a real big pain in the ass. I don't know how to.
It also messes up the labels. So the labels wind up scraping when people like put them together. Like, it just causes issues. Why was this done?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of problems with the quality. I think just because a lot of these came from Japan and people keep nice, or keep their games in nice condition.
Are you keeping it at a 4? Because I feel like it's not the same quality as the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, if these were given to American kids, they would fuck them up. So I'll drop it down to a 3.
Okay. So let's talk about the size.
I mean, that shape is part of the size, dude. Does that make it a 1 for me? I hate the rounded front so much.
It's size and proportions. So that rounding is part of the proportions of the game.
Like, it is, like, there's no other cartridge that does that except for, like, Game Boy Color. It's just the worst. I hate it so much. Like, it's not that bad if you have the box. So I guess, like, do I bump it up to a 2? Like, maybe it's not as bad as in television. Maybe it's a 2.
Yeah, I'm putting it as a 2, but it's bad. It's bad.
It is really bad.
But like pulling it out, it's like the rest of the size is like okay, but man, that's such a stupid design. Like, they did like kind of the Genesis 32X thing here. I don't know why they got fancy here. They did not need to.
Yeah,
art.
So on the art front, it actually is better than Super Nintendo for multiple reasons. And one of the reasons is that it doesn't have the 2 little sidebars that a Super Nintendo cartridge has. So the label goes across the whole front of the cartridge.
Yeah. No, it's better.
And it's kind of half and half between having decent original art and just chopping up the box in a weird way. I don't think it's terrible. It's at least a 3.
Is it enough better than the Super Nintendo one to make?
What did we give Super Nintendo again?
We gave it a 3. But they don't take but they don't take advantage of that space. Like, if you look at Super Mario World, like, it is just like the same Super Nintendo art, at least on the PAL one, and then the big black box on the side. Like, there's still a lot of dumb bordering.
Yeah, you're right. So they definitely took advantage of the Super Famicom box format, and then they didn't spend as much effort. And it's understandable because it is like a completely different aspect ratio that you would just chop it up or show the logo. So yeah, I'll keep it at a 3.
It's some of it's really good. Yeah, it's hard because they did do a better job than Super Nintendo, but at the same time, I feel like they just kind of
missed their opportunity.
Yeah, that's it. That's my X factor. Is they had the palette to do it, and then they failed.
Yep.
All right, let's move away from Nintendo for a minute. Let's go into the wide world of other video game systems. The Neo Geo AES,
A console near and dear to our hearts,
boy.
Johnny.
Yeah, we're big Neo Geo collectors here. Lots to say about Neo Geo. Holy shit!
I don't think I might have one Neo Geo game. I don't think I have an AES game. I have MVS games, but I don't think I have an AES game.
It's funny because we didn't do the boxes on these, but these are like, god damn, these boxes. Did we do the boxes?
Yeah, we did do the box on these because they're the same size as this freaking cartridge.
I was gonna say they're very impressive boxes, very impressive cartridges as well. But how do you feel about it as shelf appeal for just the cart for an AES game?
Is it a 5? I mean,
the label is very small compared to the size of the cartridge. It does have a label, but that label is art wrapped around the top. So you get the title. Sometimes it's one label, and sometimes the art goes onto the top. So you get like a weird end label. It's not a 5 for me. But I mean, the shelf appeal just sitting there giant and looming.
So
it's a very imposing cart.
Neo Geo people are so hardcore. And even if you bought these back in the day, they were expensive and people knew to keep the boxes. Like you knew Neo Geo was special if it was 1993 or whatever. I don't think I've ever seen someone with a Neo Geo collection that didn't have the boxes. This is almost like an NA category for me because I've never seen someone have a Neo Geo game that didn't have the box.
No, I'm looking and there's collections of just that. It's also got like that slight ridge at the top, so it's not perfectly square. And I wish the label took up more room. Again, it feels like a missed opportunity to like really showcase. Like you have this big canvas and they kind of wasted it. I'm gonna give it a 3, just based on how big and imposing it is. But I feel like there's a lot of fail here and missed opportunity.
I guess I'm gonna go with 4, and that's entirely theoretical because I can't even find someone that has more than one Neo Geo game on a shelf without the box.
Quality. I've never heard anyone complain about the quality, but then again, I don't talk to a lot of Neo Geo people, so maybe you have a better opinion than I do.
No, I have no idea, Johnny. 4, Johnny. I don't know. It's big. It feels heavy. Like I feel like this is probably it's a weird category. This is probably the most fragile video game cartridge because it is so heavy and complex. But that makes it feel higher quality. Like the actual, if we're talking about quality, not just in a durability sense, but in terms of the actual components that go into a cartridge, like this has to be a 5 because they literally gave you the arcade machine. So, like it's got to be a 5, right?
I mean, we can put it as 5. Yeah.
Like I feel like all the other ones were complaining about like, oh, the plastic, oh, the labels, when the majority of a Neo Geo cartridge is the PCB. That's what really matters here. I'm just gonna go 5. Whatever. Fuck it. Neo Geo can have it stay.
I'm trying to think if I'm a 5 or a 4. I do hate the end label wrap.
Do you hate all end labels that wrap around?
I kind of do, but also especially when they don't clearly do the title. Like these ones don't separate the title all the time. So like with Nintendo, they
print the box. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes they don't have the title on them as well. All right, fine. Fuck it, 5. I'm not going to spend too much time agonizing over this. Size. It's a 5. I love this thing. Like if you have this,
is it too big? So I do think it is delightful.
Yeah, it's the X factor is the size for me.
All right. It's hilarious how big they are. So sure.
Yeah, like they just leaned into it, right? They're just like, you know what? We're gigantic. Well, size, we're leaning into the bigness of it and just that being our X factor. So it's Neo Geo is getting a really good score. It's going to be our best scored system almost until we get to the art.
I mean, if there's anything it deserves it for, it's the giant cartridges, right?
Yeah. The art though, you have this giant canvas and you have this shitty art that wraps around on the top label. Killing me, dog. I hate this.
Yeah, it sucks. And because the Neo Geo boxes do look really cool. And then when you think of an AES cartridge, you do just think of like how black it is. So that it is very much missed opportunity.
It's not a 1, but it is a 2 for me.
Ooh. Like they have more. Their label is bigger than the entire Sega Genesis cartridge, and yet it's somehow disappointing. It's not that big, I don't think. But
Yeah.
all right, I'll go with 2. I think the boxes are obviously killer, but the cartridges are not.
Yeah. All right. So
Oh, Johnny, we got
Neo
another
Geo.
good one coming up. You didn't even want to
Yep,
include
but-
it in this episode, and I can't imagine what you're talking about.
Well, we'll talk about, but your score is a 4 and mine is a 3.8.
That would make it the highest one besides NES, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Got rated over my boy, the Super Nintendo. Hurts my feelings. But there it is. TurboGrafx 16. Are these cartridges? Tyler, tell me this is a cartridge.
This is a cartridge. It's a PCB with pins that you stick into a console. How is it not a cartridge?
They called it a card.
It's a what is a cartridge? Siri, what's a cartridge? Obviously, I don't have Siri, Johnny. The government's
Yeah, I'm like, that was bold. Oh, are you trying to set off our audience? Thanks.
Johnny, what's this? If you don't know, I imagine there may be someone who doesn't even know what a TurboGrafx game looks like. Johnny, it's a credit card. It is the smallest, thinnest thing you've ever seen. It literally will fit in your wallet. It's a little bit longer than a credit card.
A little
Man,
longer, a
they're
little
cool,
thicker. They're pretty cool. Like, look, whatever you say about it, I think they're cool.
My small child brain would not even be able to fathom how they fit a video game on there. Because you look at Nintendo cartridges, they're like, look at all this space Nintendo needs. How come these are for babies? They fit so many graphics in such a small thing.
Yeah, no, I think they're neat. But their shelf appeal is like 0.
Yeah, it's 0. They have like wallet appeal to me. They have no shelf appeal. No one wants to see a stack of like cards.
This is, you know how you gain shelf appeal for these if you have these loose? You buy like those baseball card pocket holders, the 9 pockets, put them in a binder, label the edge of that binder TurboGrafx 16, and put it there.
That would be so fun.
Yeah, this is not something. Yeah, we don't have zeros, so it's getting a 1 from both of us. But yeah, there's not anything going on here to have shelf appeal. Let's talk about the quality. Like, I've never seen a problem with them. They feel sturdy for as thin and as small as they are. What do you got?
I kind of feel like it's one of those things where I don't really have a problem with it. So what do? I mean, is cleaning the pins kind of a pain in the ass because they're small? The pins are exposed. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, the pins are like really exposed, which I guess if you were going to have a problem. Also, that black runway for the pins is an area that can get dinged up. You do have to slide it into the system.
I mean, I'm going 4.
That's still like a 4
with it. Yeah,
4. Yeah, I mean, it feels.
I feel like to get a 5, you have to be like, oh, this is rough and tough. Atari 5200 is here to fuck you up.
I will say the only thing I've seen is they do yellow a little bit, so they do discolor.
Oh no, you're right. I see that a lot with PC Engine. Because I actually own those, and I only have so many TurboGrafx games.
You still at a 4, or is it discolor bring it down to a 3?
4, whatever.
Okay, size.
5.
This is like the direct opposite of the Neo Geo. It is, what a pleasant little size these are.
Oh, they're the best. Oh, I love
Very
them.
pleasing.
I have taken multiple, not PC Engine games, but I've just taken them out just to hold them because they're so fun. If you just like are holding 10 of them, she's like, I've got 10 games in my hand. Look at how tiny they are. I love them. I think everybody who has held a Hue card loves a Hue card or a turbo chip.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about the TurboGrafx.
So they're usually white. Back to the quality. They're usually white, so they get dirty really easily. That's another problem.
Oh, well.
Because kids got grubby hands.
Those stupid kids. No, TurboGrafx kids were the cultured ones, though. The grubby hand kids. He was a Sega kid. Come on.
Kind of. They also like printed like some notes on the back and stuff, so that sometimes got rubbed off. But whatever. I'm just like trying to think if I feel good about 4 on quality. Size, delightful. It's a 5. I love it. Art.
0.
Well, sometimes they put art on them. Sometimes the art is okay.
They even put art on them. So
Well,
the top third of this cartridge, for really no good reason, I guess it's for like wear or something, but it's just like that black section that just has nothing on it. No like embossed TurboGrafx logo, just black nothing. And then most of the early games are just text and the TurboGrafx logo. This is back to like Atari 7800 tier of like, what are we doing with this art?
I don't understand why in that pin area they didn't just like emboss TurboGrafx 16s. Also, this is like the pins and the art are the opposite direction. I hate this. Like it feels, yeah. Don't like it.
So you can see what game you're sliding into that little slot.
No, you can't read it. It's upside down.
What are you talking about? It'll be facing towards you as you're putting it in the console.
No. Art.
It's a 1. So it's so easy to fix this. 1 would be to spend more than literally 20 minutes putting together the art package for your cartridge. But man, they embossed the TurboGrafx logo onto that black section. That makes the black section look cool instead of like completely pointless. And then they could take the TurboGrafx logo off the freaking label. It takes up half the label on most of the cartridges.
Also, like the TurboGrafx logo isn't great. But like I've seen people who just like get turbo and like orange right there. Like you do something cool there. Like just turbo and then like 16. Like you didn't need to put the graphics part in there.
Sure. Well, graphics were pretty important in like 1990.
Yeah, but people knew what you were talking about.
And
PC Engine like did a better job of using that space for art too, like the whole. Whereas TurboGrafx is just like slap the title on there. PC Engine put actual box art in there, so PC Engine would not get the same score.
I mean, you could just slap because it's jewel cases and it's a fairly square thing. So you slap the jewel case right on there and it looks fine. But like a lot of the TurboGrafx games are just like, oh, it's Dungeon Explorer. Like they would just put the Dungeon Explorer text on the cartridge.
Yeah,
all right,
Bonk's Revenge is just Bonk's Revenge. Yeah. Anyways, PC Engine art way better. No shocker. PC Engine would probably be like a 3 for me, and this is a 1. All right, we're staying in the land of this isn't Nintendo. Sega Pico. Let's talk about this one.
I was thinking about scrapping it, but it did sell well in Japan, and it has to be one of the most unique cartridges. It's probably the most unique cartridge that has ever been made.
Its shelf appeal, though, let's talk about its shelf appeal. I got it as a 1. This thing has 0 shelf appeal.
Yeah, there's no shelf appeal.
It's so ugly. Like, it's not big and delightful. It's just, like, big and chonky. Like, this is not good.
If you don't know what a Pico cartridge is, it's basically a children's book. Like, I don't know, maybe like 9 by 9 inches built into like a plastic frame. There's no end labels anywhere. It's just a children's book with like PCB pins sticking out the bottom of it. And you would open it up and like touch it to play the video games, like with a stylus.
I don't understand why they just didn't incorporate, like, just make that whole bottom part a rectangle. Why did they like encase the pins in a tiny area and make this the ugliest shape in the world?
I think it was just a time in history with like the early 90s were just like, man, tech could be ugly, but it was multimedia and you could just throw some stuff together. I think this was an exciting time in technology. I love the weird multimedia era.
No.
And Sega Pico is like the multimedia era became an entire video game console, which is the reason it's so bad.
Well, let's talk about so this thing manages to have, the cartridge has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corners.
How can it have 5
Not
corners?
6. Yeah, because
one of the corners is rounded off, you mean?
Yeah, one of the corners is rounded off. But also, the top corner is like more of a 90 degree. The bottom ones like slope, and then even the ones that actually go into the system itself aren't quite 90 degree. They're a little less sharp, a little more rounded than the top right corner or top left corner, I should say. I hate this thing so much. I couldn't give this a 1 harder if I wanted to for shelf appeal.
Yeah, they're really the worst. Like actual children's books would look better in your video game collection than Sega Pico games.
Yeah. So they have these like big hooks that the book goes in. So we're going to quality now. So it's basically got pages on the front of the cartridge that look horrible. They're always dinged up because they're made to be used by kids. You can never keep these things nice. Terrible.
It seems like this cartridge is so substantial and meant to be childproof in like how much plastic there is, and then there's not really a book cover that goes over the book, so it's kind of like the books have thick pages, like they're meant to be like messed with by kids, but the cover is the same style of paper as all the rest of it. It seems like there's nothing protecting it, and that there should be something there protecting it.
Well, they did this dumb thing. They sunk the book into it, right? And like raised the plastic, like that would protect it, but that just made it harder for kids to access. And like some of it's rounded and like nothing's at the same height. This is the ugliest design thing you have ever seen. I fucking hate this thing.
What if I told you it came from
about
Sega
this.
in the early 90s, and yet it's somehow... This is actually kind of their golden era, right?
Yes.
I mean, their golden era was like 2 years from 1989 to 1991, and everything else Sega has ever done besides arcade games has been a mistake.
This thing is a 1.
What is it for quality? Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's got like pages in it. It's got 3 spiral bound pages. Like, how can we give it high on quality for that?
Yeah, terrible. Size, it's a 1 for me because it's a dreadful size.
I mean, if
and
we're
everything
taking,
about it,
especially the geometric shape of these things.
Also, like the front is like lumpy and round. Like there is no smooth, consistent. Fuck this thing. It's the worst.
It is the worst. Yeah, obviously it's a 1 from me too. It's so like someone had to spend a bunch of time in CAD making it as bad as it is, because like, I don't know, the Sega Master System is bad for how like boring and plain it is, and like they like fucked it up a little on the back. But there's so many weird angles and divots and insets in this thing that someone spent a long time making it this bad.
Yeah, like this kind of bad cost money. You don't arrive at this by accident. This is really a product of just dog shit design. I can't even believe that someone looked at this and went, "Yeah, that's great. I love it. Let's make it." It's horrible. I don't know what kind of brain rot was going on in the boardroom when this thing was approved. They could have just made it a rectangle. They could have made it a fucking rectangle.
Yeah, it would have been decent.
Yeah. But it has one saving grace. It does have big ass art on it. And it's got a lot of art because it's a book.
I mean,
it's not a 5.
They're all children's book covers, and like people don't put a lot of effort into children's books covers, like for things like the Disney games and things like that. Like it's clearly like either stills from the movie or clip art. You said 5?
No, I didn't say 5.
Oh, I don't know.
It's not a 5. I'm giving it a 4. Like there's a lot of art. It's not terrible.
Let me talk you out of this 4. When you're looking, we're talking about how well the cartridge style showcases the art. And no matter what you do with a Sega Pico cartridge, you cannot get away from the fact you're looking at this ugly cartridge with a 3-ring bound children's book inset.
But it is the art on the cart. Like we've already dinged the cart for its deficiencies. It's
also how well the cartridge showcases that art.
I mean, as ugly as this thing is, it's doing a good job of showing me a big chunk of art. It's big, like. The art isn't of the lowest quality.
By bullshit. I'm giving it a 3.
You're giving it a 3? Do I stick it a 4?
Yeah, man, that Richard Scarry's Busy Town art, that's crazy. That's so good.
It's not terrible. I mean, it looks like Richard Scarry's Busy Town.
I'm sorry, it's not Busy Town. It's Richard Scarry's Huckle and Lowly's Busiest Day Ever.
Busiest Day Ever. Yeah. But I mean, the things all look like they're supposed to look like. You're not confused. Like that 101 Dalmatian, like the Magic School Bus looks like a Magic School Bus book cover because that's what it is. Like I just find it hard to. And the box art for Pico games is actually terrible, and they didn't just put the box art in there. They actually used the cover art of the label.
Don't make me bump this up to a 4 with your good points.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, we didn't rate the boxes for these, which would have been like a 1 because these are terrible boxes. And then the art for the box is the game itself. They're like, let's show you how ugly this card is. But like, yeah, so they did the reverse where they like, instead of like doing the thing where they put the box art on the cartridge label, they put the cartridge label art on the box. It's very weird. But yeah, no, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with a 4.
All right. Let's move on from the Sega Pico. Spirited discussion landing at dead last, tied with Intellivision.
Yeah, 1.5 for Tyler. You actually have, is that the lowest score? Or no, it's still tied for lowest? No, I think that, yeah, Intellivision. Tied for your lowest score. I guess I'm a softer grader than you. That planned out last time, too. You're a 1.5, I'm a 1.8. That's exactly where we landed on Intellivision. Pico, still F tier. Like, the X factor for me is how fucking terrible the Pico is. Same with the Intellivision. These are both probably my 2 lowest scores. Jaguar. Tyler, let's talk.
All right. So sometimes I feel like we got to describe cartridges to people who maybe haven't had experience with them. Jaguar, imagine a completely rectangular Sega. So it's like a Sega Master System, completely rectangular. And then at the top is a rounded plastic handle. For whatever reason, we have existed NES, Super Nintendo, Atari, not Odyssey 2, but we've existed through all these consoles. No one's ever needed a handle to pull the cartridge out of the thing. Like sometimes they put a little divot on the back or some ridges on the side. But everyone's like, no, we're pretty fine taking cartridges out of the console without a handle. And Jaguar's like, guys, we got an innovation here. Rounded handle lumped onto the top of all of our cartridges. Also, it means there's no end labels.
No. You forgot the best part about it is that handle is curved.
Yeah.
There's a curvature to that handle.
I don't know.
Not like a top curve, like not at the top of the cartridge, like an arch, like the side. So front to back of the cartridge, there's this unnecessary curve.
Yeah.
And the back of the cartridge also curves. So you can't, this thing is terrible. Shelf appeal, 1.
Yeah, it's definitely a 1, especially because there's no end labels. I don't know
labels.
what they were doing, but kind of everything about the Jaguar is like, what were you doing down to all of the physical shapes of Jaguar things?
Yeah, just like, this is so stupid. This is such a bad idea. Yeah. Quality. I
don't have problems with the Jaguar cartridge. You know, all of that stupid plastic that they shoved around it, like I haven't seen the label screwed up.
It's true. The label is also inset, which is nice. There's ridges at the bottom. That handle awkwardly sticks out. It sticks out in front of the cart somehow and also on the side. So it's like that handle's doing a lot of work to protect the cartridge portion of the game.
That handle sucks so much. I mean, the handle is so ergonomic. What a great idea, whoever made it.
Oh, yeah, depending which way you're grabbing it. I'm glad they made it.
I don't have a problem. It's going to be one of those 4s because I don't have a problem with it.
Got a 4? Okay, it feels bad, but all right. Size and proportions, 1. Because
it feels like the shelf appeal
thing.
and size goes hand in hand so often, but if you have a bad size, that often means you have no shelf appeal. So yeah, 1 for the size because of the stupid handle.
Yeah. Well, with boxes, it's a little bit different because you can kind of get away from like that. It's like, oh, I've got like the perfect size, but it doesn't look great on a shelf because it's too small. But it's like delightfully small, like a Super Famicom, the disc. But this is not that. This is just terrible. Art.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about the art? This is not terrible.
They gave a lot of the cartridge a sticker, which not every console does.
And it is inset. But what art they chose to do that is kind of mediocre. But not.
No, I think Jaguar art's not good. I'm not gonna. I mean, I think the cartridge design does a fine job showing it, but like, no one is like, "Oh, Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure." This is great art, VidGrid. Like Raiden, that's a classic Jaguar game, and it's just the logo. I'm going to 2, I think.
A 2. I think I'm at a 3. Like it's not good art, but it's done a good job showing the bad art.
Rayman, the most classic Jaguar game, just the logo and a bunch of like copyright text.
You know how we complain about end labels? They did make custom end labels for these people, for you maniacs who just put these on the shelves somehow.
I mean,
there's custom end stickers.
I could see the reason they exist, I guess.
If you want to know exactly why an Atari cartridge is so ugly, look up the end labels for it, because when you really see an end label stuck on this horrible handle, you can appreciate just how stupid this thing is. God, this is a stupid cartridge. This is like Sega Pico level stupid.
Pico has a reason. I mean, come on, Atari. They had like how many failed consoles in a row at this point?
With ideas like this, I can't believe they failed.
Imagine being in like Atari hardware engineering in the Jaguar era. You're coming off the 5200, the 7800, and the Atari Lynx after being like the company that brought the entire concept of video games into the mainstream. And then you're working on the fucking Atari Jaguar. How does that happen? They have like some of the most innovative engineers in the world smoking dope, but like making amazing hardware that like was super commercially successful. How did we get to the Atari Jaguar? What happened? And then imagine being on the engineering team for the Jaguar CD. Oh my goodness.
Some shit went down.
Like, I understand that like, you read interviews with like the really important people in the industry. You know, Al Alcorn talking about making Pong. I want to read the memoir of the guy who engineered the Jaguar CD, just talking about what a shit show it all was.
I would like to hear more about that. I want to show you a picture. I'm going to put a link in the chat for like this. I want to see if this changes your shelf appeal score.
Okay. Okay, we got an
because
Atari,
they apparently can, if you stack them right, they do sit on top of each other, which is a thing I did not expect.
I still hate these. I hate that they're round. Yes, okay, they do stack. The handle like what it nests into the handle of the next one, so they're weird and curved, but it does fit on the shelf. I hate it. I still hate how this looks.
But the labels would be face down on top of each. Okay, are you sticking out of one? Does this change the score at all?
I can't rate like if it had end labels on them because they don't have end labels.
No. I'm just saying because they could be stacked on a shelf. It's still a one, right? Because there's no end label.
Anything without an end label is complete trash. Yeah, no.
Okay,
get out of my shelf.
I'm just making sure. I'm just doing our due diligence. All right, 2 for art. We're both at a 2.0 on this thing. Trash cart. Let's talk about another trash cart. The Nintendo 64.
Ugh. Johnny, what happened?
Hey, speaking of no end labels,
Johnny,
hi,
Nintendo was getting
up?
all fives. What happened?
Like this is bad. Like, I don't know how again, it's not square. It's got this weird shape. Like, I don't know why it's got this arc on the top. The label gets better, which I like, but man,
the label quality goes down though.
It does. The label quality definitely goes down. But man, like shelf appeal, is it a 1? It's got to be a 1, right?
Dude, no end label. It's a 1. No end label and a weird shape. Yeah, that's a 1.
Yeah. Sorry, Nintendo. N64. Famously, people have made end labels for this. And like you see a lot of people with them. Here's my solve for this so you don't stick stickers on your games, because I hate that. Just buy the little box protectors for the cartridges and then stick the label on that thing. And then you get this box that's also perfectly square so you can stack all of your stuff and set it up nice. That's your solution. Don't stick end labels on these. Please stop it.
Yeah, it's a way better idea, Johnny. I've got end labels on all of my N64 games because.
Do you?
I completed that set like so long ago. Yeah.
Ugh.
I must have bought a set of stickers like, over 10 years ago to put on those things, and I was using that to track which games I still needed. Dude,
yeah. I mean, it's got to be longer than 10 years, right? When did you complete that collection? Because you've been on the show for like 7 years.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it's a loose set, so
yeah, I mean, a lot of people collect this loose, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I get it. It's a fine system to collect loose, like, fine. But just put them in the box protectors. They're not that expensive. Then stick your label on that. And, like, don't do this thing. It's so stupid. Please stop it.
It's a fine system to collect loose because there's only like 30 games that you want complete in box. So maybe don't waste your money on the rest.
Yes, that as well. Anyways, let's talk about the quality because it does take a dip. You get... I don't mind the color variations on these things. That's not really my problem. But the labels, you get some label fading and wearing that is uncommon to Nintendo.
Johnny, I'm going
it feels like they just made them cheaper.
If you saw like a little like brown smudge or something on a Super Nintendo game, like you could take a damp cloth and wipe it off and feel pretty good about it. But these games don't have like the plastic protecting the front for whatever reason.
Gloss.
So like the labels just fucking suck. They get so damaged. You can't clean them. You can't do anything with them. They're the worst.
It's like that gloss label, like protective coating that they put over most things didn't get put here. So it's like you get like a weird matte style label. Yeah, it's not great.
What were they thinking? Yeah. What else was I going to say about it? Johnny has I saw someone, I think this was on Video Game Stage, maybe it was older than that. They were considering getting laminated label protectors and slapping them on all of their N64 games to protect the label. And like I immediately was like, your solution to their labels being bad is to literally irreparably damage every game. This is maybe a bad idea. But the fact that someone even had that idea proves how bad these labels are.
Yeah, so maybe instead, just buy that plastic box protector I was talking about
just go
and put them in there.
Protectors. You know, they also cheaped out on the boxes. They
did.
Nintendo, you cheap it out on the N64. This is why people don't like the N64, except every millennial who has ever lived.
Yep. Even though PlayStation ate its lunch all day, every day. Hey, let's talk about the size of these. How do you feel about the size of the cartridge, though? I kind of like the size.
It feels weighty and chunky. It feels like the right size. But, I hate the rounded top. Is so annoying. I don't know if it would be better if it was rectangular. Like I guess it gives it a little bit personality. Yeah, it's not like egregious like Jaguar, just like being all over the place. I'll give it a 3. It's fine.
Yeah, that's I kind of like. Don't hate it. Art. So I think they did a pretty good job with the art here. Like as far as label quality aside, there is enough space on this. Like where Super Nintendo failed, they didn't make that mistake again here. They used a lot of the space up and down. I think they still could have gone left and right more. But they did a lot better job using the space of the cartridge for art.
Sure. I mean, again, it's almost all the box art. There's nothing really bespoke and interesting about it. But sure, 3. I mean, it's just the box art. They didn't fuck it up. They didn't make it interesting.
Okay. Yeah, good. 2.3 for
I'll consider going to a 4.
Nintendo 64.
Not really.
I mean, the art is also terrible on N64 games. Like just the worst, trashiest trash art. I hate it. So
all right.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. Well, perfect.
And let's do a Nintendo 64 DD.
So
what is that?
Yeah, we left off like weird, obscure Japanese stuff because we don't need to go into like every weird cartridge that's ever been made. Even though this is an episode on just talking about cartridges, because you guys have the weirdest background audio. Hey, pay attention, guy washing the dishes right now. You just listened to like 2 hours of guys talk about video game cartridge shapes. What are you doing with your life? But
don't disparage our people. These are our people.
All right. The only reason I want to talk about Nintendo 64 DD is because I do like the shape. But this is an expansion for Japanese N64s. It's like an entire tumor that you put on the bottom of your N64, and then it has its own cartridge format.
It's the Sega CD of Nintendo.
Sure. And so it's got its own games. So it's got like SimCity 64. The most exciting thing it has, in my opinion, is the F-Zero X expansion kit. Because F-Zero X is an incredible game and it has like more levels and stuff. I've never actually played the expansion kit. The concept of more stuff in an already amazing game on a cartridge-based system, like no DLC, no updates, I think that's cool.
Okay, so also there was I don't know, were you around for the hype of this?
Oh
Because
yeah,
the hype,
people used
like,
to
man,
love this thing.
Mother 3 is coming. We get to expand so many things. It was in Nintendo Power just talking about
Oh no, no,
all
no,
this
no!
cool shit
I'm
we're
talking
gonna do.
about like mid to late 2000s. People loved collecting this, and I
Oh
think it might
yeah.
have been because importing stuff from Japan was harder, and it seemed really rare. And now it seems perhaps a little less rare.
Yeah, but no, this was solving all of the N64's problems. This is how it was going to beat PlayStation. This was a big deal, guys. This was changing the world. Also, I just want to say for those who don't know, DD stands for disk drive.
The N64 already has a cartridge slot. Why would I need another cartridge drive? What do you? Actually, is it a disc? It's a disc. It's a magnetic disc,
Yeah.
Johnny. What am I talking about? So this maybe doesn't even count. We should have been talking about the Famicom disk system if we're talking about these.
It is a cartridge, though, in the sense that it's a plastic shell around it.
It is the most plasticky and thick disc that has ever been made. It's like a shout out to everyone who lived in 1993. It's like a zip disc almost. Johnny,
Yeah.
you remember zip discs?
I do.
It's like a thick zip disc. Man, if you guys don't know what a zip disk is, imagine like the most floppy ever. Just scale a floppy up 300%, you got a zip disk.
It's also a terrible shape. They do have end labels, though.
You're talking about 64 disk drive?
Yeah.
It's a terrible shape. The only reason I want to talk about it is because I love the shape. Everything else about it is terrible.
It's so weird. It looks like a skate park.
Yes. It looks like a skate park. It is. Yeah. It's almost a perfect square, but then it's got like a couple half pipes in it.
You're never going to unsee it. Go look at it. It's a skate park.
It's a skate park. It's great. So the whole format is absolute chaos. This is a giant plastic disc that comes in a jewel case that comes in a box. What? Also, the end labels were just included in the packaging, so they didn't actually come on the thing, but you could put an end label on if you wanted to, which, all right, I can't give it too much hate for that. It's just a boring text label. Whatever. One for shelf appeal. These are awful. I just really like the shape, Johnny. I'm giving this a 5 on size. I don't care about anything else about it. I wanted to bring these up because
his X factor is size. I'm going to go ahead and I'll give it a 3 because it's weird. It's a little charming. It's now that I've called it a skate park and just see it as a skate park, I kind of love it. But let's talk about the quality. It's fine, right? It's like a 3.
Sure. It does. I don't think it has the problems of N64 because the label's inset in the skate park.
Yep.
And the art is 1 because the label is so awkward and tiny and whatever.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Anyways, go look at this skate park, this disk drive cartridge that you can pair with. And a lot of people think that the because you'll see the disk drive with what's it called? The big N64 carts, the developer carts. That's not the cart. Like that super long N64 cart. Or it's super long and then sometimes has like a fat end. That is not a DD cart. That is just oftentimes with the DD because there were only like proto units here. And like also Nintendo 64 DD Mario Artist comes with that as well. But that is not the actual cartridge. The cartridge is the thing in the jewel case. So just so you guys know, there's a lot of confusion about what's actually the disc.
And to be clear, this didn't come out in America, so you just don't have to worry about it. If you're one of the 80% of the people who think like that.
Like what was it? Like Derby Stallion 64 or something? That was one of them. Mario Artist and
Mario Artist is the one you see all the time, and probably the F-Zero X expansion pack. Or maybe that's just what people bring to America, but there aren't a lot of games.
What was the Dex Drive? Was that coming out for the GameCube?
Man, I don't remember.
Maybe I'm thinking maybe that was the one.
I was like, oh, the Dex Drive.
What? Maybe that's the one where Mother 3 was coming out. Maybe I've confused them.
No, Dex Drive is a memory card transfer thing made by Interact.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Man,
Also
I know we're getting
64.
off on more tangents than we can than we have time for, but the concept of taking your console stuff and putting them on a computer was so cool. I forgot what I had. It might have been one of these for the N64, or it might have been PS1, but I had something where I could manage like my save games and back them up to my computer. And I was like, oh my God, this proprietary game console is on my Windows computer. I'm a hacker. This is crazy.
Pretty cool. You could have been so cool. Just think, if this thing worked out, we could have had Mother 3. Never coming to America, guys. Just go pirate it.
Is it not? Yeah, I think it might be one of the things they have in their back pocket. It could be like Final Fantasy Remake was like, if Final Fantasy 7 Remake was like Square is like, well, whenever we decide to need unlimited money, we'll just remake Final Fantasy 7. And then you thought it would never happen, but they did it. And, if Nintendo, now they're on the Switch high, but when they get to their Wii U lows, you might see Mother 3.
I think there was an issue with like the licensing or something, though.
Oh, all right. I don't know about that then. You know what? They're Nintendo. They could figure it out. They're a big enough company to do it.
They could. They have more money than God. They could do something, I'm sure. Anyways, that's all the consoles that we're going to talk about. Tyler, we did it. We talked about all the home consoles.
Johnny, how long is this episode? Oh my God, we're coming up on 3 hours. We did it again.
But we've got more. It could be its own episode, but no, not for us. And I lied. There's not. There are more. Depends how you feel about the Switch, but
or the Evercade VS versus, which is the home console version of the Evercade. Johnny, we're going to talk about handhelds, starting with the Game Boy.
Okay, tell me about the Game Boy cartridge. How you feel about it? What's the shelf appeal like?
We were talking about drawers of games. I have a drawer of Game Boy games. All of them are right there because they're so tiny.
No end labels.
I literally considered printing out end labels for my drawer at one point because I was a crazy person. I should have just been working overtime to buy boxes. And then instead I decided to separate the cartridges with what do you call them? It's like a little divider that has like a tab. So it says like A, B, C. That worked out way better than end labels, I think.
Yeah.
We can just go ahead and give shelf appeal for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Gear, Atari Lynx, Pocket Color, DS, 3DS, Switch, and Evercade. Just give them ones down the board. That's there we go.
I've done it. I was already working on it. Yeah.
Quality.
Ones. The shelf appeal is 1 because you can't see anything. They look terrible on a shelf. At least you can stack these, but it's not great.
Johnny, quality.
Let's talk about the quality. Game Boy games are bulletproof, right?
I love a Game Boy cartridge. So I only have one problem with them, and it's that the default out of the box is like the label is curling up a little bit, and I don't get it. Yeah. It's not like a huge deal, and it usually doesn't get worse, but it's not perfectly flat, and it drives me nuts.
4, 3, what do you got?
Oh, yeah, 4. I'm still going 4. It's still a Game Boy game.
Size. I love the size of a Game Boy game. It's a 5.
That's obviously a 5. It's similar to the box, and the shape of a Game Boy cartridge mimics the box. Oh, it is so nice. It's close to Hue card level where I want to hold 10 at the same time. They're not quite like that thin where you could do that, but stacking them up on a desk. If you've ever gone through like games for like getting rid of like reselling stuff on eBay, and you've got like a stack of 15 Game Boy games, oh man, that is your favorite stack on your desk.
It's pretty good. Let's talk about the art, because I think they did a really good job for the small canvas that they had of maximizing it to get the art in there and in laying the label. Not that the art is always great, but I think they did a good job with what they had. Like,
no, I agree. The same
best job?
I was going to say the same exact thing, Johnny. Literally, and also they did the thing that TurboGrafx didn't on their little
the dead zone,
the little oval where you actually take the cartridge in and out of. They embossed Game Boy, and as a secret bonus, that's a grippy thing that cuts into your finger that makes it easier to take out the cartridge.
Yep, pretty good.
And it also has the borders, so it has those silver borders that says like the product number and stuff, but like they're so not egregious, they like fade into the background compared to like a Super Nintendo cartridge where it's just like loaded with advertising and bullshit.
Yeah, and they didn't do the thing where they windowed the whole thing. They could have bordered top and bottom, but they didn't. They were restrained.
Yeah. Yeah, these are killer. I don't know. It's really logo-y. All the handheld games are. I don't know if I can give it a 5, but it's pretty killer for what a handheld is. Like it's at least a 4.
Okay. Yeah, that's a 3.5 from both of us. Yeah, I like it as 4. It could have pushed a 5 on the art. Like they did for what they have. They really did the best job they could, I think.
Yeah.
No notes. Let's talk about Game Boy Color. How are you feeling about Game Boy Color? Any different? Like it's already shelf appeal is going to be 1s across the board, guys. So
Johnny, I hate Game Boy Color. Johnny, for the same reason that my favorite thing is having a stack of 15 Game Boy games on my desk, you can't stack 3 Game Boy Color games because they ruined it.
What? Why'd they ruin it? How'd they do it? Is it because they put a bubble on the top for no fucking reason?
They took the concave bubble and they made it convex. And you know what?
So
it was a sensible design decision because it actually is a lot more comfortable to remove a Game Boy Color cartridge because that convex little ridge, it's like the most comfortable ridge out of any of these cartridges. But then you can't stack them. And then they're like, oh, you're supposed to put them in the little protective case. Fuck the protective case. I don't want to deal with the protective case.
Yep.
Like, the protective case is a good idea. It's nice that's included, except it, like, doubles the thickness of the cartridge. So, like, it's... I guess that's not a big deal, but, you know, it's a portable system. I'm not going to deal with all that bulk when I'm carrying around 6 games with me. I'm a stupid kid. I don't care if my label's going to get a little scratched. It's like the nice high-quality label.
So, yeah. Quality, though.
I mean, quality, I guess you can keep it at a 4. They're still fine.
Yep. Size and proportions. That's where we're digging it for that bubble. Well, you go from a perfect down to what? Like a 2 or a 3?
Oh, it's not a 3 for me. It's like a 1 or a 2. I'll keep it at a 2 because it is still the delightful Game Boy size, but that bubble really ruins it.
It does take a thing and make it a lot worse. The art, I'm still at a 4.
I'll go down to a 3. I don't like Game Boy Color art as much. I just don't like Game Boy Color in general. It is Nintendo's worst system.
But what did the art do? Just the quality of the art? Like
when I think of Game Boy Color, I think of like Mario Golf, which I just don't find the art very appealing. I don't know. What? Let me look at some Game Boy Color games.
Pokemon Gold.
No, because there's so many more like kids games on Game Boy Color that have like shitty, boring licensed art. Games. No, I'm not going above a 3. Fuck you, and fuck their stupid thing where they're like, oh, it's so cool. Look at how clear our cartridge is.
Okay, fine, you got it.
Fine.
You're a 2.5. I'm a 2.8. I'm not like I think. Regardless of the subjectiveness of art, I think. They did a good job with what they had. And
Johnny, Game Boy Advance.
Game Boy Advance. Hey, shelf appeal, still a 1. Hey, they fixed that concave thing. Quality is rock solid on this thing. Can you think of like a better quality cart? Like they're just really hardy.
All right, if you want to go to a 5, I'll allow it.
Like
I don't have a problem.
Game Boy games will sometimes chip. Like you'll get corners in a label bill, but I don't really have any problem. Like
they don't have like that weird curly issue.
Yeah.
I mean, they do get scratched up when you insert and remove them, but it could be just because everyone played these and switched out the games way more than consoles. I don't know. Yeah, I'll keep it at a 5. That's fine.
All right. Size, very delightful size.
Pretty delightful size until you have that stupid ridge so you like can't stack them anymore.
Yeah. But it did fix the thing so you could pull it out, but didn't make it. Yeah, it's size and proportions, like it's not as good as a Game Boy, and then you got that ridge. It's not as bad as a Game Boy Color, but it is pretty egregious. Game Boy Color. You think so?
I just don't know what to do with them. They're so awkward. Like the box is amazing. I love a Game Boy box, but like with the cartridges, like I know that's the shelf appeal, but like I'm sticking with it too.
So people ask me like, how do I store my loose ones when I have them? I typically will buy the cardboard holder for it because it's about the size of the game, and then I will stick that in the box protector for just a regular Game Boy game. So then I put the cart in the cardboard protector, and then if I have the manual, I put it in there. That way it stays lined up with all of my Game Boy stuff.
That makes a lot of sense if you're eventually planning on getting a box, but that is a huge waste of space if you're going to do that for every loose Game Boy game and you're planning on keeping them.
Yeah, like but also why if you aren't doing that, like if these are just your playing games, then just like put them in like one of those all for one cases where you fit like 50 of them.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Again, buy a little binder and like that zips and throw all of them in there. I think on the size and proportions, I think I'm at a 2 because of the way they messed it up.
All right. Great. You agree with me?
Art. It's more logo-y. I think they did a really good job. Like, man, how's it they did a better job than on the Game Boy of maximizing the space? Like, they took off the borders. They got rid of that nonsense. But then they, like, just made everything too logo-y because they had less canvas.
That's the sensible decision, though.
Yeah, I agree. But when I look at it from an art perspective, I think it just looks worse. Like, what you feel that's still
whatever? You know what?
Well,
no, what? Like they didn't fuck anything up. It's not really a missed opportunity because what else were they gonna do with like an inch worth of label space?
No, I don't think you're wrong. Like I think they made the right decision. But when I look at it, if I'm gonna judge this next to an NES game, right, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I like the way they did the art better here.
So
and
I
that's
think
kind of my point.
If they tried to cram more, so like one is like we're talking like Sega Master System, and if they tried to cram more art onto these cartridges, that would have made it a 2. But because they had the sense to keep it at logos, I will give it a 3.
Yeah, no, I look again, made the right decision, but just there are limitations given your format, just like the shelf appeal, right? Like it's sensible not to put an end label on these things. I agree. Like you shouldn't try to put an end label on this. But also, not having an end label hurts it for shelf appeal. All right, let's talk about a worse cartridge. Let's talk about the Sega Game Gear.
Johnny, why do all these portables...
Oh, hold on. 2.8s. You and I are both 2.8 on this.
Okay. Sorry, I know we have a lot of GBA fans listening to the show. I don't know if they've made it this far into the cartridge episode, but we'll see.
No, we'll see. Well, let's talk about everything that goes wrong and right with a Game Gear cartridge, shall we?
Johnny, why?
Shelf appeal is a 1.
Obviously.
You're asking why? Why what?
Why do all of these handheld cartridges here, like, I brought multiple games with me, with my Game Boy Color, with my Game Boy Advance, with my Game Gear. None of these nest together nicely and just stack in like a case or my pocket. They all have weird protruding things. Why? This would be like, all right, I understand like Atari Jaguar, like whatever, it's going to be on a bookshelf. Like I understand they thought like, well, this doesn't matter. It's just going to be on a bookshelf or something. But these, I want them to be as compact as possible, which is why like GBA was great that they made them half-sized. But they still had the stupid ridge. I hate the game.
Like, oh, you got to pull them out. You know what would have been better if they would have just like created an ejector out of the cartridge rather than, or put it in the way.
Kids don't care. Just make it hard to pull out. Kids are hardy. They'll just deal with it. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's terrible. But what about the quality? How do you feel about the quality?
I don't think they feel anywhere near as nice as a Game Boy cartridge.
No, I don't have too many problems with them though. I
mean, I guess the little ridge does protect the label on a Game Gear game.
Yeah, it's
I'll go like a 3.
3? Did you say 3 as well?
Yeah.
All right. Size. And proportions.
Fuck them. I hate them so much. This is like Jaguar level where the shape of the object is just like 1. I'm out.
Okay, you're out. I think I'm at a 2. I'm not quite that bad on it, but yeah.
I also hate the Game Gear. It kind of ruined my life. So
I know.
It is like the reason I'm here talking about video game collecting because I got a Game Gear instead of a Game Boy.
We love you, Game Gear. Thanks for that.
If I just had Kirby's Dream Land and freaking Pokemon, I would have been satisfied as a kid, and I wouldn't have turned into this monster I am today.
Game Gear ruined this man's life.
That had friggin' X-Men and Streets of Rage, which were fine, but they were on the Game Gear. X-Men wasn't fine. X-Men sucked. I'm giving that game too much.
Your mom thought she was saving money. Your mom and dad thought they were saving money, but they really financially fucked you.
They weren't saving money.
Game Gear.
It was the more expensive one. They were disappointed that the Game Boy was black and white. They're like, oh, I thought this was color. They had one that was color. So they returned my Game Boy and bought me a Game Gear.
I love that they took it from you and you're like, no, it's fine. Please don't. And they're like, no, shut up, kid. We know better.
God. And like I had Kirby. I already knew who Kirby was and got me fucking X-Men.
Art. So they did the thing that I hate. They like over logoed this thing. They crammed art on here, but then like it's like bad crop box art. They put too much Sega Genesis shit in there. They really crammed the space. They used a lot of the space, but didn't make good use of it. They did emboss the little Sega thing at the bottom, but that could have just been art where they wanted to put Sega like 4 more times anyways. I don't need to read Sega and then read the Sega seal quality 3 centimeters above it. This is terrible.
Yeah, I'll go with whatever you do on this one.
I'm going with a 2 on this. Like, there's art, there's something to see, but like this is not a good job.
This is what Game Boy Advance could have been if they tried to cram too much shit onto it. It's kind of interesting how restrained Game Boy Advance was, where like they could have put too much garbage on there and they just kind of didn't. They just kind of nice.
Yeah, it's like they saw a Game Gear game and were like, whoa, that's terrible. Like, honestly, like the Sega seal of quality, and then under the label it says Sega, and then right under that it says Sega again embossed in the cartridge. This is so stupid. Like, and then like if you look at like Pac-Man, it says Sega Game Gear, and like just giant. They also did the thing on the label where they did it sideways and like put Game Gear on some of them, so the art's all inconsistent. I hate this thing.
Good.
Like, you are at a 1.8 and I'm at a 2, and I feel like my 2 is too high. That's how I feel about this thing. Anyways, let's talk about another beautiful system. How do you feel about the Atari Lynx?
It is hard for me to talk about the Atari Lynx and not just immediately think of how it's like the ugliest thing that has ever been made. Like from the school of Atari engineering where they're just doing whatever.
It's like they saw a TurboGrafx cartridge and then we're like, we can ruin that.
So yes, so I think the cartridges itself is a ruined TurboGrafx cartridge because it's so close. It has the delightful, it's so thin, it's so small. It's the same thing. And then the top of an Atari Lynx cartridge is like this 3D curve. Don't do the curve. It would be so nice if it was flat.
It's like it seals the top of the system so it becomes like a consistent surface. They did not need to do this.
Yeah,
I would have rather than just kept it flat and put a little ridge on the back that you could pull it out.
Yeah,
this is so dumb.
No ridge, no nothing. Just make me use friction to get it out. Just make it a hue card. Didn't that work for the Turbo Express?
Yeah, this terrible.
So close.
Quality on this. Also, the label is not. So here's the thing: the label is just right on top of this like flat, smooth plastic. So it's not like that you see a lot of these ruined, but it's definitely a pathway to be ruined. The pins are exposed, not really inset. I mean, they're kind of inset.
It doesn't matter if they're inset. Like every other cartridge has them covered. Yeah. So it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, I can't in good faith give this a 3. I'm going to go to a 2. You're going to give it.
I'm fine.
I just feel like there's too many things that can go wrong.
I've never had a problem with the Lynx cartridge. I guess like most of my Lynx games are sealed, but like of the ones I have complete,
that's why
with the cartridge.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot that goes wrong, especially like you can see that label just like ready to peel. Like anything bumps that label, it's peeling the label.
Sticking by 3
like mad. Okay, size and proportions ruined. It's ruined.
It's ruined. I mean, they're close. I think they almost had something. They were close.
Almost. They were a contender. Like they addressed some of the problems that could have been like on the TurboGrafx, like, oh, it's a little bit smaller, and like cleaning it up, and then just nope.
Man,
Two,
it's so
one.
frustrating with like the TurboGrafx being a 5 here and how close this is to being just a tiny TurboGrafx cartridge. And like does that make it a 1 from the studio? I'm going to give it a 2. I want to like it, but I don't.
Yeah. Yep. 2.
And then the art is just a 2. It's the same crammed Game Gear thing that got going on. No one was
Yeah,
making bespoke Atari Lynx art, which I mean, Atari Lynx games are good, but maybe not a lot of effort in the marketing department there.
They just made some choices, and they weren't good. They weren't good choices. Yeah, they like just overly cramped, like all the warning stuff, like all the information that you didn't need them to just like heavy-handedly put on there. Like what? You couldn't have stuck all that stuff on the back? Like,
All right, Johnny, we got to get this episode moving on. No one wants to hear about the warning text on Atari Lynx cartridges.
Oh, fine. Then tell me about the Neo Geo Pocket if you're in such a rush.
No one cares about the Neo Geo Pocket. So we're talking about the Neo Geo Pocket Color, which is the same thing. They're all right. So they're Game Boy games, but they've got the 3D bump, the other direction of the Atari Lynx game. So it's got the bump almost like the Game Boy Color bump, except it's at the very top and it has ridges on it.
It's smaller too. It's smaller and kind of fatter. The proportions are a little different.
Yeah, and I get what they were going for with this. I don't know. For some reason, I think the Game Boy Color cartridges are so comfortable to take out. And I think it's because it's such a chunky piece of plastic that's nowhere near the label. So I've got so much room for my big sausage fingers to like dig in there without worrying about like scratching the label with my fingernails or anything. So I don't think this has the benefit of that going for it. What are we even talking about? Quality? I mean, quality of these things, like, who cares? These are so small. I've never seen one damaged. A lot of the times they still come in the protective cases.
Yep. You out of 4 or 3?
Yeah, I'll just... I'll keep it at a 4. There's really no problems with these.
Okay. Yeah, they're like closer to GBA size. It's like a fatter GBA cart.
Sure, yeah. And then for
size and proportions, this is where it falls apart, though. Like like you said, it's almost. Again, could have been a contender. It's almost there. It's like, again, I feel like it's thicker and also taller. It's just the proportions and then the bump. I don't like it. It just does not.
Stop trying to make things
have the feel.
3D. I mean, like, I realize we're talking about 3D objects, but like, don't make things protrude out of your thing. We don't do this anymore. Obviously, look at DS and 3DS and Switch. Like, we realized, oh, maybe just don't have things protruding out of cartridges. I'm going to. It's so close to Game Boy, but again, it's killing me, the bump.
Yeah. All right. I can live with the 2 here. Okay, let's talk about the art.
It's so small.
How are you feeling about it?
It's a 2. It's not Master System, but again, it's too small for all the stuff they're trying to put on there. If you're going to be GBA size, you just need the logos. Yep.
Again, GBA remarkably restrained. Everybody else so far not. Okay, that's a 2.3 from us for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, something we've probably never talked about on the show. Hey, the game you want for it is probably what, like Gal Fighter and Cotton and Sonic? Those are the ones you're after. There's a unique
Do you really
Sonic
need
for this thing.
Sonic on the Neo Geo Pocket Color?
I think
Connect
Sonic
has just bought the Fantastical Night Dreams Cotton, which is a European exclusive, or Japan and Europe.
But yeah, Sonic the Pocket Adventure, Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure. It's unique. It's a unique game. It's a unique Sonic. I don't think it's anywhere else yet.
It is.
Maybe it's in a compilation somewhere.
It is really weird. There's a guy who's been on eBay for years, so many years, who just has an unlimited supply of Sonic cartridges for Neo Geo Pocket Color. No box, no manual. But they're legit. And Johnny, you said that there was a bundle with the Neo Geo Pocket Color where it came with loose cartridges and Sonic was one of them.
Yeah, so there was like a blister pack of 4 games that you could buy. I think there's like 2 or 3 different versions of this. Okay, it's a little blister pack, comes with 4 games. They're loose though. They're not boxed.
Okay. So this guy like clearly has some overstock of Sonic games that were used to populate that blister pack. Because I think as long as I've been aware of Neo Geo Pocket Color, like Sonic has been worth $20 loose because this guy has so many.
It's called the 4-pack expansion game set for use with the Neo Geo. Like this may have been like leftover from the factory that they just shipped out. So there's like a pack with Metal Slug and Dark Arms, and yeah, it's a really weird kind of thing that exists. I don't know.
There's
how
not that many Neo Geo
game
Pocket Color
variations
games unless you're going after like Fantastic Night Dreams Cotton, which is like $1,000. Like the good stuff is not expensive. It's really common. Like you just go get Metal Slug and Sonic and Card Fighters, and like those are some of the cheapest games on the system.
Oh yeah, remember I was saying like there's probably like some compilation. I forgot they did like the Neo Geo Pocket Color compilation just recently, 1 and 2. So
What?
if it's not on there,
2? You needed 2. There's only like 20 something games in the entire console. You needed to split that
There's a
up.
2.
You fucking assholes. But
Yeah.
what? That was on the Switch, I'm sure,
can't
because it's a
waste-
support machine.
you can't waste those IPs, buddy.
Sega does it every time Sega puts out these Genesis compilations. They have like everything on them. 10, you get to buy 10 Neo Geo Pocket Color games at a time. Tell me this is $30. $40? $40 for 10 Neo Geo Pocket Color games?
To be fair, you can buy. Oh, I forgot there's a Mega Man battle game, Battle and Fighters on this. But you can buy a $60 version, which will get you a Steelbook.
Oh, man.
Is that better?
No. I don't know what to say about this. Who's buying this? People who are buying
You
this
are.
were like, oh, this is such a good deal. I'm getting 10 games for just $40. 10 Neo Geo Pocket Color games I will never play.
Okay. Well,
Deal.
what's
Psychologically, it's a good deal.
I just confirmed though. I wanted to make sure. I went through. Sonic is not on these. So still unique. Go get that Sonic.
Yeah, go get Sonic. Why not? All right, we've talked enough about Neo Geo Pocket Color. Johnny, Nintendo DS.
Okay. It's a great system. Lots of games. It's a very plain cartridge that doesn't mess things up too bad. Though it does have some weird ridges kind of unnecessarily. Yeah, it's really good. It's very small. Quality I have not had too many issues with. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking about loose DS games. Sure, I'll go with 4 on them. Why not?
All right.
It's basically an SD card.
Size, it's very small. It's too small.
It's too small.
All right. I'm going to give it a 2 on size and proportions. Not because it's like can't be stacked. It's just so small. It's like you kind of have to have it in the case, and then the cases are too big. I hate that.
All right, I'll agree with
kinda
that.
made it
Yeah,
this.
2, it's ridiculous. It's like an SD card.
Yep.
I keep saying that. I don't know why. But I mean, you could also compare it to 3DS, which just made it just like a touch bigger, and it's so much better.
Yes, that's true. Feels more substantial too.
Yeah. Like art. I mean, all right. Let's be serious. Can we just give this a 1? I don't care how good they did with the space. It's too small to do anything with it.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a 1, but like a 1 really? A 1? Okay.
Give it a 2. Oh my God, Sega Master System. You're just like really fucking up the ones because you're so bad.
Like at least they put something there.
All right.
Could you imagine how ugly the Master System games would be if they had to like put all the warnings and stuff that people have to do now, like ratings? Would that have made them actually make Master System a better cartridge? What do you think?
Yeah. If they had to print anything, yes, definitely.
They say brevity is the soul of wit, but we wouldn't know anything about that on the Collector's Quest podcast. Let's talk about the 3DS.
Oh, Johnny, it's like 5 a.m. Just to... This is what I'm doing with
Hey,
my Friday night.
you already fell asleep. You were asleep before this. Shut up.
I don't even know how long I fell asleep. Johnny, quality on 3DS? Is that a 5? Man, 3DS cartridges feel nice for some reason.
Yeah, they feel they feel for so small, they feel substantial. I don't know how they manage that. They feel really good.
It must just be like the plastic, like because like everything else, I'm like I don't really have a problem with it. We could just give it a 4, but for 3DS, I feel like giving it a 5 because I feel like it has something about it that makes them feel so good.
It's got it. It feels good in the hand. So yeah.
And kind of similar on the size. I think it's so slightly bigger than DS, but it goes from like a 2 to a 4. Is it still too small?
It's still too small. I'm going to put it at 3.
It goes to a 3 then.
It's better. It is better than the DS. Again, being more substantial. Even though it's got like an awkward notch, that notch serves a purpose. And yeah, I'm still good with it.
Yeah. All right. I'm there with the 3.
Art is like still a 2 though. So
yeah, you can't do anything with it.
All right, guys, the Nintendo Switch. We've arrived at everyone's favorite portable. It's a portable, right?
Sure. Do you use it mostly docked or mostly portable?
I only use it docked. There's been a very rare occasion that I've had it not docked. My son has never used it really docked except for like 3 or 4 times. But he is constantly on that thing and it is undocked and he walks around with it.
Nintendo are geniuses. They truly made the console for everybody.
Yeah, they figured it out. Okay, talk to me.
Quality? Man, they're coated with a bitter thing so you don't swallow them. Like, what am I going to complain about a Switch card? They don't have the X Factor, so I'll give it a 4 again. Man, 3DS just feels so good. Size 2, it's the same thing as
small.
DS.
Too small, feels a little insubstantial.
Can we go 1 for art? Man, Switch cartridges are fucking small and weird. No, we're going to give it a 2.
So you say that, but again, smaller, but I think they did a better job of not like butchering it up with all the extra stuff on it. But yeah, it's not great.
It's so small, and then a third of it is still taken up by the Switch logo, which it honestly doesn't look that bad considering everything about it. It lets you know, like, oh, maybe don't stick this in my computer. It's not an SD card.
Yeah.
Look at the size of like an ESRB logo compared to everything on a Switch cartridge. It's ridiculous.
It is like the ESRB logo. They're like, we have to make this so big.
Go find a copy of Pokemon Shield. They had to move the entire Pokemon Shield logo over because the ESRB logo is so big on the cartridge.
That is obnoxious. I cannot believe they got away with this.
So fucking funny.
What is happening? You guys should take a second, if you can, and just go look. The whole thing is shifted from being center because this is the biggest, stupidest logo I've ever. Okay.
Yeah, that's a 2.
Okay. You got a 1 or a 2 on this?
I'm going to go with the 2. I mean, Sega Master System is really setting the bar low.
They've set the bar. They really did establish something. Man, that brick red label, that beautiful, beautiful font. Okay.
So we're both at
and that's it, right? We're done.
Switch.
We've talked about everything we could talk about.
Yeah, that's all the consoles. And you won't find any other consoles, especially on Wikipedia, which definitely doesn't strangely list the Evercade and Evercade Versus when you look up certain Duke Nukem games as if they're bespoke consoles now.
What is the Evercade? Tell the people.
Johnny, the Evercade is a handheld that came out a number of years ago now. 10 years ago, almost? It's a handheld that only has ports. It only has multi-cartridges from like random consoles. You'll get NES games, you'll get arcade games, Game Boy Advance games, and you'll get like 10 games on cartridges, and they only sell compilations. They'll be like, here's the Namco compilation number 2, here's Atari compilation number 3. If you know Pico Interactive, they actually put out, Pico Interactive puts out games on the Evercade, but Pico Interactive is a company that has bought up a bunch of old IP, just like random shit. Like they own Wisdom Tree is a big thing they own. They put out 40 Winks because they own whatever company made 40 Winks. And they just like, they have all of this worthless IP that they bought to re-release garbage like this onto them. Not garbage, you know what I mean? But Evercade's the same thing. Their goal isn't to make a video game platform where you can have the best stuff or where you can have new experiences. Their goal is to put out whatever they can license. Sunsoft will give us a license. Great. We're going to put 7 Sunsoft games on a cartridge. That's what all the Evercade stuff is. But it is interesting because it literally is a bespoke console with like over 50 games that are all just that.
This thing is crazy. I always thought this was like pirate, but it is not. They have so many games available from this, so many things you would not expect. You want some Double Dragon? Fine. Go play Double Dragon. Can you what is happening? They've got a lot of big publishers on here, or publishers that used to be big. You want to play some Burger Time, Lock and Chase, just Doom? What's going on with Doom? How did they get Doom on this thing?
They got I don't know. Who owns the Doom IP? Bethesda? They just like give that out? I don't know. I guess. They've got like NES homebrew on a cartridge. That's pretty cool. It's maybe a little B+ tier on some of the games they got. It's not like the super A tier, but 17 of them in one $30 cartridge. In terms of like software, like NES homebrew is not free. I know some people think of like, well, I could just get hacks and stuff and all that's free. Like NES homebrew, for the most part, commercial software that is sold at like premium prices. Like most homebrew I pay like $50 for. So to get 17 of them for $30, that's a good deal.
Hey, do you want to play the Sunsoft collection? You can play it here.
Wait, tell me, does it have any hidden gems on it?
It does. It has Days Before Christmas and Euphoria on there.
No way!
And my favorite, we've talked about it on the show, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel. You want to play Glover or Skulljacker or Zero Tolerance, Street Racer? What is that? This is crazy.
It is such a weird thing because it has existed for a long time. Like you would think this is like something that exists for a year and then just like, all right, whatever.
The Toe Plan collection is on here. Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. You want to play some Tomb Raider? How about the Commodore 64 collection with all the weird Commodore games?
Oh, that's cool.
You want to play some Splatterhouse? You can play it. Dude, Sydney Hunter, you can play that too. It's crazy.
I'm still waiting for Sydney Hunter to come out on NES.
There is more. There's like at least 5 or 6 Nintendo homebrew games that made it on here. The Intellivision collection here, if you want to play like some of the old Dungeons and Dragons and Intellivision stuff, you can go get this. This is such a weird system. I don't know if it's the best thing I've ever seen or the worst because of how janky it is. I don't know how to feel about this.
Oh, it's
very weird.
I think it's amazing how many, like, I realize that a lot of this is just like whatever licenses we can get, but like, it's amazing how like the quantity of stuff you would get on what should be like a super niche thing. Like who is buying, this came out last year, like a collection of 10 Amiga games from Team 17. Like who's buying that? Like, all right, like for real, who's buying that?
You are.
I'm not, because I will get the Amiga games themselves.
How do you feel about
you
Chips?
know me, I hate ports, but like there's...
You want to play Chips Challenge?
Yeah, I want to play Chips Challenge.
Well, you can play it on the Evercade.
So what are they? They're coming out with like just British computer games now? They've got stuff scheduled for November of this year. Like this stuff is still coming out.
I want you to know Chips Challenge is the Atari Lynx version. Or the Atari Lynx version.
Is that the original version though?
I don't think so. It wasn't the original version a Cereal Box game?
No, it was originally an Atari Lynx launch title, baby. Ported to Windows in the Entertainment Pack 4.
Okay. Well, and all that was nice enough to say, but let's talk about the Evercade cartridges, because that's what we're here to talk about. But now that we've given a primer,
I don't own an Evercade. The only reason I talked about this so much is Ruben, who joined the Discord recently. He collects Evercade, I think.
Ruben. I think shout out to Ruben. Ruben, thanks for joining up. Yeah, he brought this to our attention, and like I said, my knowledge of Evercade was incredibly light, and now I know more, and I can see some of the appeal. It's a very interesting thing, but we're here to talk about the cartridge, and we don't own these, so it's going to be hard to, I think, score this fairly, but I can tell you something about, I can't tell you really about the quality. I've never held it. Looks cheap, though. I'll tell you it looks cheap. It looks like something I'm not going to enjoy.
Sure.
I'm going to just give it a 3 because I don't know what's happening. But you can tell me if you disagree with that.
I'm trying to find like a really nice picture of a cartridge, but I want to describe the cartridge to me. It looks like a Neo Geo Pocket cartridge, but I'm trying to find a better picture of one.
No, the cartridge is rounded. You're gonna hate this thing.
No, okay. Is that what the cartridge looks like? So I see what you're talking about. Is that not a holder for the cartridge? That's what the cartridge looks like?
No, that slips into the back of the Evercade to seal the Evercade.
Okay. I don't hate it. I know you think I'll hate it. The divot on the back is so big, it's almost not a divot, and the part that's not there is like inset. Man, we are not painting a good enough word picture. It is a weird ass shape.
Imagine that the cartridge slot for any of your systems, that the cartridge for the Evercade actually just fills in that whole thing and then makes the console, your portable console, one unified flat surface. It just fills in all of that space. There's no ridge, there's no top. It seals everything. Nothing can get in there. That's kind of a cool design. I kind of like that, especially if you're going to keep these in the box. But the idea of that as a loose cartridge makes me want to vomit. The size and proportions are weird. You're not going to ever be able to stack this. Terrible.
I mean, this is literally a system made for video game collectors. Like, this is another thing where, like, they were not designing this to be separated from the packaging. No. Like, it comes in clamshell plastic packaging. You're never going to lose it.
No. Size and proportions for me are a 1. But I think it is incredibly functional and does what it's supposed to be doing very well. But that, we're talking at it as an individual piece, not as a thing. So that's not just a slam on this thing. It's just completely not functional.
Right.
The art is pretty plain. It's just like they did a good job with their space. They kind of printed on the back, which I liked. So you know what game is in there. But the art itself is just kind of whatever. I'm gonna go a 2 because it's just pretty plain.
Just, whatever. I mean, they're all compilations, so it's just like chopped. Not only is it small box art, it's like small multiple chopped up box art. It's like, it's a mess.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a 1.8 from both of us. And hey,
no, I'm going a 3 on the size. I realize I've never held it. I think there's something about it. I think they considered the stackability in a way that like the Game Gear did not. Okay. I think I could stack it.
Okay. If you can stack it, I'll bump it up to a 2. Okay. But I've never, like, I think functionally it's like a really cool idea. But
all right, Johnny, that's the Evercade, a system that no one collects. But you know what? It's interesting because no one collects it, and it is technically a video game console. It's probably the most recent video game console that's been released because it came out in 2020. Interesting. I've seen people on YouTube who collect this. It's like some people, but not many people are serious about collecting this. So, I don't know. It's better than Switch. It's the same thing. It's just a bunch of ports. Go get the bunch of ports that no one's buying. Everyone's buying Switch games. It won't bankrupt you.
Here's some quick stats for all those people who are paying attention at home. In general, our average lowest score was
You said average lowest? What?
Yeah, our category with the lowest average score, thank you, was shelf appeal at a 1.7 because it is hard to make cartridges look good on a shelf. So, and with all the prevalence of the portable games, that is understandable. Quality, again, because a lot of these cartridges are made pretty well. 3.4, that was our highest. Size was a mixed bag at a 2.7. Art coming in at the second lowest at 2.4 with an average score across the board of 2.5.
We're right in the middle.
For all these different things. Which is not a great
2.5 would be right in the middle if we were rating it from 0 to 5, so we're towards the low end.
Yep, it's not a good score. This is not a good score.
I'm sorry, cartridges. We would say we love you, but we really only love Hue cards and NES cartridges. And Atari 5200, baby.
And we prefer our collections in the box. Sorry, we knew we were biased, and so if you disagree, let us know how we got it wrong. Tell me why the Genesis is actually a beautiful cart, and we just don't get it. I'm probably not going to agree with you, but I would love to hear how you arrived at that conclusion. So let us know.
I mean, I collected cartridges for a really long time, Johnny. It just happened to be Nintendo, which are the only good cartridges.
Nintendo cartridges are pretty good. Tyler.
What up?
Do you have a collector's question for us?
Oh, you're not going to tell us like a top 3 cartridges?
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen to this whole episode. I got to go remember the scores.
Yeah. Come back, check back later. We're doing a better job this time where we have all the scores ready. Hey, top score, no surprise, the NES. Both you and I gave it a 4.5. Second place and third place items are both you, Tyler. You giving the Neo Geo AES and the Atari 2600. Well, the AES got a 4 and the 2600 got a 3.8. Weirdly, I also gave the Atari 5200 a 3.8. So tied for you. Super Nintendo also getting a 3.8, as is the Neo Geo for me, a 3.8. So here's your top consoles, essentially. Nintendo, Neo Geo, Atari, Super Nintendo, that's the 2600, and the 5200 snuck in there. And then after that, we get the original Game Boy. After that, it kind of all the scores bottom out and are below 3, or 3 and below.
All right. By Nintendo.
Do you want to hear
games.
our lowest, Tyler?
What's our lowest? Is it Sega Master System?
No, it is not the lowest score.
Oh.
You gave the Sega Pico a lower score than the Master System.
All right, well, that's trash as well. The
so
Sega Master System is laziness, and the Sega Pico is an active disaster. Like, they actively made it bad.
Yeah. So our low scores are Intellivision, Sega Pico, Game Gear, Atari Lynx, Master System, the Odyssey 2 for me, and also the Evercade for me because I don't understand it. These are all of ours that got below a 2.
Johnny Tex asks, when are we going to finally do a So You Want to Collect Jaguar episode? I don't know if that's a serious question. I imagine it is. Hey, we talked about Jaguar. We love those curved handles.
Woo! It's funny that this question gets brought up because I was going to tell you after this, like, we need to do a So You Want to Collect. We have to pick what it is, and we have to get on the research train and make sure the format is still good and relevant.
Okay, yeah, I'm down with it. I don't know if it's going to be Jaguar. I think I have to... I don't know anything about collecting Jaguar CD, so I think I'd have to do research for Jaguar. I do have a Blue Lightning collection, which was the Jaguar CD pack-in. I've got like 50 copies of that game because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, you can also have Myst on the Jaguar CD. What are some of the big Jaguar games? It's like Alien vs. Predator, Atari Carts.
Rayman.
Is Rayman one of the big ones?
I mean, Rayman it came out on Jaguar first. It's a Jaguar game.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. I think so. Some of the stuff we can get into with like So You Want to Collect is that there were or are like Jaguar overstock is crazy. Like all these Atari dealers, they went out of business because the Atari Jaguar. So all of them have like new old stock consoles, bunch of new old stock games, unfolded boxes. There's so much Jaguar shit out there, and like noting specifically what is out there compared to like what is actually rare might be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we do an episode talk about. I don't know if that's next, but
we'll get 30 people who listen to our Jaguar episode.
Yeah,
Tex will be there for it.
Tex, you may have influenced Tyler. You may have got him interested.
Have you ever got Strange asks, have you ever gotten a game from eBay that looked good in the pictures, but when you got it, there was a hidden flaw like a tear, crushing, water damage, mold, etc.?
You mean there's scummy sellers on eBay that want to do the best to hide their flaws while accentuate the positive things so they can make more money?
Yeah, of course I got that. I would say more often than not, it's shipping damage. I did get a moldy copy of Myst that I remember was really hidden in the pictures, but really obvious in person.
I had a guy take a picture of the corners of the box, but he did it in such a way where he flipped one of the corners and then sequenced them. So I thought I was seeing all 4 corners, and it was really a picture of the same corner twice. And when I pointed that out, I was like, buddy.
That's incredible, honestly.
Yeah. I was like, you fucking asshole. Like, come on.
I want to make sure that never happens to any of my buyers because I never want to deal with the return. So I just sold a 10-year-old laptop that I have, and with laptops from the mid-2000s, a lot of them were made with this rubberized plastic that degrades, and it's just constantly a little bit sticky. It's like the worst thing ever. This happens to some old kinds of like ThinkPads too.
It happens to steering wheels too in cars.
Yeah, and you could rub it with Goo Gone. Like, there's just nothing you can do. Like, the whole thing is chemically degrading and it's just like trash. You just have to throw it out. And like, my entire eBay description is like, you can't use this as a daily driver. This sucks. Look into this, guy. And it like still sold for $100. So I have no idea what the guy's gonna do with it.
Someone's like, "Don't worry about it. I'm good."
Yeah, man, I love sticky laptops. Same thing happens with Gizmondos. If you guys know what Gizmondo is, that's a handheld we didn't talk about. All the Gizmondos are melting. They're all just a little bit sticky. Oh, it's disgusting. I hate it.
That sounds terrible.
Johnny,
Why?
those are our questions.
All right, we did it. Hey, you want to know if you can spend some money on the Evercade? You can go buy an atomic version for 400 of the verses. Go get it.
What did you just say to me?
An Evercade. Go buy an Evercade console, the atomic version, for $400. This is
so
thing
the Evercade
people buy.
Versus, I don't know if we said this. It's the home console version of the Evercade, which originally launched as a handheld. Crazy.
Yeah. The Atomic Edition specifically comes with Duke Nukem 1 and 2. This is a special pack-in. It's not a special version. It's just packed in with this.
Okay.
And they made it look like yellow tape. Cool.
So, Johnny, they have this handheld, and all it plays is ports, and then they made a home console version of it, so you could play all those same port cartridges. But we already have that. It's called the Nintendo Switch, and it's both of those things in one.
Yeah. But have you seen it?
Have I seen what?
The Founders Edition, the Blaze Founders Edition console, which you can get for like $300. Come on, man. Get on this. Get your Founders Edition. I'm just looking into Evercade now. I just want to know more about Evercade. How do I start an Evercade collection? Tyler, when are you doing the episode?
I bet
there could be a
rare.
video, Tyler.
It's so new. There's probably nothing rare yet. You know, in 20 years, maybe we'll do like an R-Zone type episode on the Evercade.
Man, we didn't rate the R-Zone.
We didn't rate the R-Zone. Zeros across the board.
4s across the board, baby. Best system there is. If you don't know what the R-Zone is, go listen to our April 1st episode from like 2 or 3 years ago, where we give you really good information about the R-Zone, weirdly. Best information on the internet. Enjoy.
Johnny, what are you buying? What are you playing?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you buying? What are you playing?
Johnny, I bought one thing since our last episode. The Pokemon Gold and Silver Sweepstakes CD sampler sealed with the postcard, the pre-order bonus for Pokemon Gold and Silver. It was $6. Man, I think that's a good deal. In a world where everything Pokemon is crazy, I don't understand why the stuff that's actually related to the games, even when it's kind of uncommon, is worthless.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works out, but sure.
That's
So
all I got.
weird.
And I'm playing
Oh,
V
you bought?
Rising.
Okay, so I didn't buy this technically. I bought it, but I didn't buy it recently. It just finally showed up today. Night Trap. Night Trap finally made it to me.
I know what you're talking about. You're not talking about a good version of Night Trap.
I'm talking about the best version of Night Trap. The Game Boy Advanced video version of Night Trap. Where you can't play it, you can only watch it.
I forgot
Take
that.
the frustration out of making bad decisions right out of the game and just watch the movie anyways.
I mean, that is the best way to experience Night Trap. Night Trap is a terrible video game. And
Yeah.
probably, I don't even know. How would the movie work? Because like the whole point of Night Trap is it has multiple... Oh, do you get to choose which video stream you're watching? You just can't fail?
I have no idea.
You're not going to play this stupid piece of shit. All right.
I
bought it too. I don't know why I bought it. I probably bought it because I have every other version of Night Trap, and I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm missing the one version of Night Trap. But it's not a video game. It shouldn't even count.
Nope.
Okay,
it's Game
hold
Boy
on.
Video. No, you have famously said that Game Boy Video does count.
Oh, no, it's... I don't know. I don't know if it counts as a literal video game, but all right. Here's a question for Joe, our resident stickler about what is and isn't a video game, or what isn't the same video game. This is Night Trap on the GBA, but they have removed a major element of the game, like the game. So is this
The
a version
decision
of
portion.
Night Trap, or is this its own bespoke thing that is also called Night Trap?
I think it's its own thing, personally. That's my take.
Sure, I'll go there too.
I also bought a horrible compilation pack of Star Wars games. It's like a bunch of them.
Oh, on the Evercade?
Yeah. No, this was from, I bought this from Target because they were having like a sale. Have you seen this thing? Like, they keep doing these like Star Wars compilations, and then they just made like a bigger compilation. And I can't believe it wasn't sold by Limited Run Games. Instead, it was like something that just released in the wild. What is this thing called? The Heritage Pack. Have you seen this thing?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well.
Oh, is it a collection of ports for the Nintendo Switch? That's crazy.
Sure is.
Who would have thought? $80.
No, I did not pay $80. I paid $30.
Okay, it's $80 if you want to download it from the Nintendo Switch Online store.
Oh yeah, no, I paid
deal.
$30 and got the physical version. Yeah, Jedi Academy 1 and 2, Star Wars Force Unleashed, Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, Republic Commando, and Star Wars Racer. Basically, it's all the games Limited Run put out, and then on one compilation pack, except for like the Game Boy Empire and Star Wars, and now they're just announced Dark Forces.
Yeah, no, they put out Dark Forces too. Now it's a killer pack. I was gonna say that's all the Star Wars games that matter, and then I'm like, oh no, the Dark Forces and some of the 2D games are pretty
TIE
good
Fighter,
too. Battlefront. Yeah, no, there's a lot of good Star Wars games. But this is a good pack. I would not pay $80 for it. I wouldn't pay $30 for it because I already own literally all these games.
Yeah,
but
I own all these games multiple times, so many times that I decided just to why not buy them one more time?
Yeah, sure. And then the Switch 2 will come out, and you'll be like, oh man, I really want to maybe play some Jedi Academy. But why would I break out the Switch when I could just buy the new compilation?
Oh yeah, just buy another one. $40 more, sure, sounds great. Let's keep spending money. I'm smart. I'm a good investor. Yeah, that's how I do it. Anyways, terrible box art, but yeah, I bought that because I'm a sucker, and I was like, ooh, it's like my little thing dinged me. It's like it's on sale today. I was like, well, if it's on sale today, might as well. $30, why not? That's what I bought. That's what I've bought since the last episode. I think some other stuff came in. It was like Modern Horizons 3, so I was spending money on Magic cards.
Oh, no. What are you doing?
Yeah. No, I got nothing else. That's it. We did it. We did the thing. We've talked about cartridges, talked about boxes, and now it's time to get back to real episodes like Pokemon. How many more Pokemon games we got for the next episode?
What are you talking about?
Just kidding.
Are you doing okay?
It's a joke. Yeah, I'm just kidding because we did the same episode again. Anyways, thanks for listening to the show. And if you want to hang out with us and ask us these questions, you can do that by joining our Patreon and get on our Discord. That's how you get there. It's patreon.com/collectorsquest. It's $4, and then you get our bonus content as well. Anyways, that's it for the show. Thanks so much for listening. Tyler and I appreciate you. Have a good night or morning, whatever time you are listening to this. Bye!